1 minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Dorm room with my own private bathroom in the dorm room.
Look at you.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, but you had to be an RA in this particular set of dorms. I felt like I was King George or something.
Yeah, what are you, the quarterback of the football team? Jeez.
Yeah, I felt like royalty.
I mean, if that doesn't get you chicks, I don't know what will.
No, you'd be surprised.
Come on back to my room. I got a bathroom in suite.
Yeah, you know, it's funny at a party. That line doesn't work. Hey, baby, is your stomach upset? I got a private bathroom. That is terrible.
Come on, blow up my bathroom. All good.
No. To be honest, I would not let anyone use this bathroom. So even if it was a potential hookup, I'd be like, nah, still
Sorry,
not
you got
sharing.
it down the hall, Chica.
I'm King George. I got my own bathroom. I'm not sharing.
Here are Maggie and Perloff.
Welcome to the Maggie and Perloff Show. I'm Andrew Perloff. Maggie Gray is somewhere in Mexico. I'm getting weird updates that I will share later on in the show. Something involving an NIL conspiracy. A lot going on down there, possibly zebra sightings. But I'm so excited today because my guest co-host is Keith McPherson from WFAN in New York. And Keith, I know you were excited to be back because now you can apologize to me for doubting my Lakers take that the Lakers are going to the Western Conference Finals. You said there's no way they'll cover 8.5 points last night to the T-Wolves. They came close. They won by 6. So I still have confidence in the Lakers, despite looking sloppy last night. I have a feeling you not so much.
I mean, it should have been a lot easier, no? Without Gobert, without McDaniels. No? You're at home in front of your home fans. They obviously went through some turmoil with the whole suspension. And, you know, we've talked at length about slow-mo Kyle Anderson. I thought it was going to be a cakewalk for LeBron and those guys.
No, the T-Wolves read the headlines. They came out like a house on fire. They hit every three-pointer. They were playing really strong defense at first. The officials were helping them out in the first half. That tables turned on that in the second half. But I think the T-Wolves, believe it or not, were actually playing some of their best basketball because they were so upset by what happened with Rudy Gobert, who was suspended for punching Kyle Anderson. Kyle Anderson played really well in the first half. The guys stepped up, but I knew the T-Wolves were not going to be able to keep it up. Then the fourth quarter, they could not hit anything. The end of the game was completely kind of ludicrous. Of course, Dennis Schroeder hits what looks like a game-winning three. Then Anthony Davis fouls Mike Conley, barely gets 3 free throws in. Game goes to overtime. I wake up this morning, and the DraftKings Sportsbook odds have the Memphis Grizzlies as the number 2 seed as a favorite over the Lakers. Mm-hmm. Okay? I think if the Lakers had gone out there and beaten the T-Wolves by 20, that the Lakers would have been favored. Now, here's the thing. I don't think the Lakers are going to play that badly. They did play badly last night. They were completely sloppy. Their offense came and went, they couldn't cover Cat for the first half, Karl Anthony Towns. But I think if they had won by 20, they would have been favored. And I don't think you should count them out because LeBron is playing himself into shape. Played a lot of minutes last night. He's just going to get healthier and healthier. He probably should be resting. I think in a perfect situation, he wouldn't be out there. And then the newcomers are going to get to know each other. I think the Lakers are still figuring out this team. So I think even with last night looking vulnerable, I think they're going to get better in the postseason. And I am still very, very confident that they're going to at least get out of this round against Memphis and maybe even go further in the West.
Well, of course you feel that way. You're wearing your Great Western Forum T-shirt. Yeah. I don't even know where you got that from. Do we have time to explain that one? I don't know. Also, this plays into what we were talking about yesterday. The NBA manufacturing the results that they want.
Oh, come on. Come on.
They want LeBron James and the Lakers franchise to be in there against the number 2 seed Memphis Grizzlies. However you feel about Ja Morant, Stephen A. Smith thinks that he should be the new face of Memphis over Elvis Presley, but the NBA may not feel that way. The NBA may want LeBron to knock this young guy and his young team off. I'm excited for it because we talked yesterday about Desmond Bane and that little back and forth that they had where LeBron was basically trying to sun him and say, like, I don't take that disrespect. And then, here we go again. It's that matchup, and LeBron is looking pretty good. 30 points last night. How old is LeBron? It does not matter. He probably should have had a triple-double. He was close, but he doesn't really have that much around him. AD, 24 points. I mean, it's the Lakers, man. They're playing against a Timberwolves team that was missing their best defensive player in Rudy Gobert and one of their role players in McDaniels. So,
all right. Well, the T-Wolves.
6-point win for the Lakers. They survive in advance. I went to sleep. I'm the nighttime host at WFAN. There really isn't many nights that I go to sleep earlier than 2 a.m. I had the game on, 10:07. I feel my eyes. I was out by probably 10:15, 10:30. Woke up in the middle of the night. The game was still on, and I didn't care to check the score. I just hit the TV off. I woke up and saw exactly what I expected. Not an overtime win, but a Lakers win. The NBA gets what they want. The king advances.
So, first of all, the Timberwolves are better than you're painting them. They have Mike Conley, former All-Star. They have Anthony Edwards, rising superstar who happened to shoot 3 for 17 last night, still a little banged up. And they have Karl Anthony Towns, who's an impossible matchup. I was laughing. I was sitting on my couch last night watching the game. Kyle Anderson, former UCLA star, of course, was a Spur, was a Grizzly. You reminded me his nickname was Slow-Mo. In fact, I'm not even sure I knew that was his nickname. I know he's from Jersey, near where you're from. He could start his three-point shot. I could go get a sandwich and come back, and the ball is still in his hand and is about to go out of his fingertips. He's the most unorthodox player I've ever seen in the NBA, but he played really well. He was hanging right with LeBron, at least in the first half.
It works for him. And I think it's like the league respects how thorough he is in making sure he's got all of his fingertips on the ball before he releases it. But, yeah, it's slow-mo. He plays the game at his own pace, and when you really watch him, he's so, like, deliberate with every move, and nothing is quick twitch in a league where you got to be fast, you got to be quick. Slow-mo is in a league of his own, playing at his own pace.
I love it. Okay, so I'm still have some confidence in Lakers. In fact, I'm willing to put out a bet there. Of course, you can hear us on CBS Sports Radio, Sirius XM, channel 158, and you can watch us on YouTube. You can see my bright yellow Great Western Forum T-shirt, which I actually got when I was at the Dan Patrick Show. Big LA crowd there, and I kind of got into it. I am not a Lakers fan, but I still think the West is so wide open, and the Grizzlies are not themselves. I mean, they won't have Steven Adams. They won't have Brandon Clark, key defensive players, and Steven Adams has so much little stuff for that team. You can't tell me, Keith, that Ja Morant is going to be consistently the Ja Morant we know, despite that whirlwind self-improvement tour after he was caught on Instagram with a gun. I can't believe that he will be full effect Ja Morant this quickly in the postseason. So I think that the Lakers are seeing a Grizzlies team that is just slightly down, and that's the only thing they need.
Yeah, if your star players don't play like they're supposed to play in these big moments, one-game elimination, like as I'm looking at this box score, Anthony Edwards was the entire game. Anthony Edwards only scoring 9 points, missing all of his three-point attempts. That's the game right there. Maybe the NBA got into his ear and they said, hey, man.
Oh, stop.
I'm kidding. I'm pushing this whole conspiracy theory on the NBA, like manufacturing stuff. He had an off night. There's no room for Ja Morant to have an off night. He has to be one of the best players in the league. People were talking about him in MVP considerations early on in this year. He has to do that. He has to be that in this series for them to win.
So if the NBA is pushing its stars forward, obviously LeBron, Ja Morant's apparently the king of Memphis. So maybe they
want him to do well.
I think even if that was the case, I think the NBA is nervous about Ja Morant's year. I don't think that's the guy they want to market this postseason.
I don't think it's the guy that they want to market, but I think he could have taken more time away. I think it's no coincidence that all of this happened so quickly, like a month ago, and he got right back into the fold and has played a few games since returning before going to the playoffs. Feel how you want to feel about Ja Morant. He is one of the best young players in this game. I know later we're going to talk about Zion, and Anthony Edwards and Ja Morant's name will come up when we're talking about these top draft picks. They have to star. They have to ball out. They have to play to their abilities to advance and win. LeBron's been doing this for a long time. You're not going to get a dud out of LeBron. There's no way. You're not. I'm telling you, you can bank on that. You're not going to get a performance from LeBron where he goes 0 from 3 or he has a single-digit scoring night. You're not going to see that. So knowing that you're going to face LeBron, who hasn't had to play that much this year, he's ready to go. AD, who was hurt for some points, but when is he not? Anthony Davis, he's hurt every year. But you've got him. Now you've got Schroeder coming off the bench. Yeah. We were talking about D'Lo. He is going to be an X factor if he is healthy, if he can put in more than 2 points.
Yeah, he looked banged up last night. He looked a little less explosive than we're used to. I mean, a side topic. I had a big issue with some of the celebrating last night with the Lakers. Not because they were over-celebrating. So Dennis Schroeder hits what looked like the game-winning 3 and does the ice water in his veins celebration, points to his veins.
That's D'Lo. That is, when I think of that, I'm a Nets fan, and today I chose to wear my Nets shirt because I'm doing this show with a Sixers fan. I'm doing Spike's show later, Rights to Ricky Sanchez
You're
podcast.
You're doing Rights to Ricky Sanchez? Oh,
and I'm doing Clap Your Hands. So I go from your show to 2 more Sixers shows. I'm like, I might as well wear this Nets shirt. Of course, I have the sweaty back from coming in. I didn't realize it was 80 degrees when I left with a sweater.
I know. I had the same problem. That's why I'm wearing this Lakers T-shirt and not my regular outfit.
It's hard to call the weather out here. But the ice in the vein celebration with Schroeder and with LeBron, we laughed about it. Schroeder's doing that, and I guess D'Lo has given him the green light as his teammate. LeBron is doing it, and then you see the shot of like LeBron in the foreground, D'Lo in the background. I also know we're in this TikTok era where these guys celebrate and they pose and they know that the cameras are watching and people are making extra content off of every single thing. So, it's rare to find a guy that acts like he's been there before.
So here's my issue with the celebrating. I don't care about Schroeder. I'm not always the biggest fan of him. I think he's been a little inconsistent. But LeBron, I'm a dad. You're about to be a dad, by the way. We'll get into that later. But I'm a dad, and when I try to do the celebrations that the young guys do on the court, it looks super lame. And I'm sorry, LeBron doing the ice water in his veins right after Schroeder did it kind of looked like a dad trying to celebrate like a young guy. I think LeBron, I follow LeBron on Twitter very closely. He's basically like me. He's a dad who's on Twitter all the time. It just struck me as kind of lame.
It was lame. And we laughed about it, and I said, it's LeBron. LeBron needs credit for everything. And LeBron is like, wait, he's doing it? I'm going to do it because I made the pass. I made the assist. So I got ice in my veins for making the play.
But can't LeBron come up with something original?
All LeBron is doing now is this, the imaginary floating crown. I'm the king. I'm the king of the NBA, king of the universe. Long live the Watch King. Crown me, crown me. Well, kings don't crown themselves, but LeBron is always putting on the imaginary crown now.
I was going to tell you, Keith, that imaginary crown motion doesn't really work on the radio, so you explained it, thankfully.
I thought about it as I'm like showing you. Anyone listening is like, dead air.
But, okay, I'm willing to put it out there. I have more confidence in the Lakers. I'll put any kind of bet out there. If you're out there, you're listening, you want to call us, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227, or you're in the YouTube chat with the Weedos and the Purple Drankers. Anyone in there? I know my buddy Nick in Texas likes to see me lose bets. I will put it out there, and I'm willing to go pretty extreme stakes that the Lakers are going to advance to the second round of the playoffs. I'll bet you, Keith. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to follow through on this, because you are likely having a baby later this week. But I think you would take that bet. If I gave you even, where one of us has to do something, that's the kind of bet we do here at the Maggie and Perloff Show, you'd be comfortable with the Grizzlies.
I would be comfortable with the Grizzlies winning this series, yes.
All right. Well, we got to think of stakes.
Bet some raps on it or something?
Yes.
I owe you some homemade wraps and video instructions of how they were made so that you can go home and duplicate.
Keith makes the tightest wraps you've ever seen. It looks like you're at a high-end deli, and I was going to ask you yesterday, you come in with these wraps. I don't know if it was turkey and cheese. So I wanted one. I was going to ask you where you went and bought it. You brought it. Nobody brings in a wrap from home. You buy a wrap.
I'm like that. You
buy a wrap near work. It's always overpriced.
There's a bunch of places around here that you could buy a wrap for $10 and be disappointed. But I can go to the grocery store and get wraps, turkey, cheese, lettuce, tomato, put some mayo, salt and pepper in there. And yeah, I was trying to tell Peanut Butter Perloff, the key is to be tucking the flaps in as you're rolling. Some people are just quick to roll and then the flaps are out, but you need to be tucking those bad boys as you roll. And that's why when you saw me, whip out my handy dandy wraps for lunch yesterday, they look like they were made by somebody else. No, they're just made by a professional that never actually worked in a deli.
Wow. Well, maybe I should bring in someone here to challenge you. Maybe we could have a rap battle.
I'm down for that, and I'm down for the freestyle raps. Whatever. Well, I saw someone write in the comments, well, he's a rapper. Like, pun intended.
That was too easy. All right, so, I'm looking for bets because I'm confident in the Lakers, and later we're going to talk to a Lakers writer. I'm not sure he's as confident. In fact, I'm not sure anyone's as confident. But next, we're also going to talk a little NFL. There's a report out there. The one trade that we've all been waiting for isn't going to happen anytime soon. Keith, are we about to witness one of the worst offseason moves in league history? We'll talk about it next, right here on the Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. Minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
We're back on Maggie and Perloff, here today with special guest co-host Keith McPherson. Now, Keith is a professional rapper in the sense that he can rap a sandwich. I guess it's not a sandwich. It's unbelievable. He showed up with these hospital corners on his lunch the other day. Amazing. Somebody brought up in the chat on YouTube.com, YouTube CBS Sports Radio, Jeffrey Howell says the best thing about a wrap is that you can eat it while driving. That's an interesting point. Do you do this?
I have done that.
Yeah, you can eat a sandwich while driving. It's a little...
Yeah, but you're going to lose some of the ingredients. I think I wrote to you today. I said, I'm traveling across state lines. I got to wrap it up.
What is it? What did that mean?
Just means like I'm going on a journey from New Jersey to New York. Mm-hmm. I don't want a sandwich that... And that's another thing, too. I pack a book bag.
Yeah.
A lot of times you put that sandwich in that book bag, and when you go to retrieve it, it is nothing like it was when you put it in there.
Good
Unless
point.
you have like a hard lunchbox, but then what are we doing? I'm a grown man. I'm not...
Yeah,
I'm not carrying a lunchbox.
You have your Brady Bunch lunchbox. Like I was
Why would it be Brady Bunch?
Did
you have a Brady Bunch lunchbox?
Well, they stopped making lunchboxes somewhere around.
I had like a Ninja Turtles.
Oh,
I had like a Power Rangers one, a Looney Tunes one, even.
I was just trying to think of what a lunchbox. I don't know. I never had a
Brady Bunch on my lunchbox.
I was a brown paper bag kid.
Yeah, well, that's not going to protect your sandwich really either.
So, okay, I was wondering, too, does a wrap keep the meat and stuff fresher? And I think it does.
So what I do is I put it in a Ziploc bag, and then there's a plastic bag. And yesterday you saw me, I had my energy drink. The coldness from my energy drink kept the wraps cold, too.
No, you're a scientist. You're a lunch scientist. It's unbelievable. Give us a call, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Looking for someone to challenge me who likes the Grizzlies over the Lakers, because I am willing to bet the underdog plus 105 today in the series. Lakers. All right, let's go to JJ in California, I believe is on board my Lakers bet. What do you got, JJ?
What's going on, Pearl?
So, you feeling the Lakers?
Yes, sir. If they play defense in the first half like they did in the second half, in the first half they didn't play no defense last night. You see that? They gave up like 9 threes. They didn't shoot no threes. The Lakers didn't. They didn't make any threes, but they just didn't play no D in the first half. It's like they came out lagging, and they ain't going to be able to do that versus the Grizzlies. They get too far ahead. They was able to come back last night, but I don't know if you're going to be able to come back from a 20-point deficit against the Grizzlies. They ain't the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Well, they knew the Timberwolves are not a three-point shooting team, and they let them shoot from three. I could tell the T-Wolves were out of their mind early. There's no way that was going to last. T-Wolves are not a great three-point shooting team. I understand the Grizzlies are better, but, and Keith, I'm curious what you think. Here's the issue with the Grizzlies. Is Ja Morant going to be a three-point shooter in the playoffs? That's the kind of thing you need. And I don't think so.
No.
I think his style of play sometime is limited in the postseason.
He's going to get to the cup. He's going to get to the rack. I think people forget about Luke Kennard.
Oh, how can you forget about Luke Kennard?
He's going to shoot. He's going to be shooting more than Ja Morant.
And Bane as well.
And Bane and the rest of those guys. Dylan Brooks will hoist up a few. The Grizzlies are a team that consistently puts up like 130 points. They had a game a couple weeks ago. They put up 150 points. So a good point by the caller, JJ. If you think you're going to stand around against the Grizzlies, they have multiple guys that can beat you. They can beat you on the perimeter shooting the three, and they are used to scoring 120, 130 points a night.
Yeah, we'll see. I still feel good. I still feel good. I thought LeBron looked good. I thought Anthony Davis had spurts. Thought Jared Vanderbilt can play some defense. All right, let's talk a little NFL. Now, Keith, your full-time job is nighttime host, WFAN, New York City. And everyone here is expecting Aaron Rodgers to be a New York Jet.
Every day. This is day 80-something of Aaron Rodgers' watch.
Now, normally it's nothing to be concerned about. But then today, Adam Schefter put out what could be disturbing news on his podcast. Let's hear it.
There's not a whole lot there. And my understanding is there hasn't been a whole lot of conversation, if any, over the last couple of weeks, going back to the owners' meetings. And so both sides now appear to be dug in, and we'll see whether or not anything changes as we head up to the draft. What's interesting is if the two sides, amazingly enough, can't figure out a deal by the time the draft comes, then the Jets go ahead and make their picks at 13, 42, and 43, I think are the numbers. And Aaron Rodgers then has a decision to make about whether or not to show up for the mandatory minicamp in May.
Wow, first of all, that was
not showing up.
Can we say that was some powerful B-roll music that sort of kicked in
got
right
intense.
There? Yeah,
I wasn't sure what he was about to say next after that.
I thought that was from his podcast, so I'm not sure. I guess it must be a video component. I don't know if you've ever produced TV, but the first rule is if you show a highlight, you have to put music underneath it.
Yeah.
But you don't want the music to be so distracting. Anyway, Schefter's point is nothing is moving here. Keith, where would you rank it among NFL disasters if Aaron Rodgers is not in a Jets uniform come the first week of September?
Oh, this will be all time. This will be very high on the list. I was telling you earlier in our pre-show meeting, this would be so on brand for the Jets. This would be exactly what would happen to this miserable franchise and their fans that have literally been celebrating Aaron Rodgers coming to the Jets for months now, and it's not done. It's not a done deal. Mark Murphy spoke. Mark Murphy has learned from a couple months ago, not even maybe a month or a little bit more than a month ago when he spoke last time, letting the world know, hey, yeah, we're done with this guy. We're moving on. He's a headache. We wish him the best. Now we're in a situation where both teams are dug in. The only thing that I can think about is the money that they're going to owe Aaron Rodgers come June 1st. Are they willing to pay him?
I don't think so.
I think it's like $15 million that they'd owe him. That's a lot of money against the cap this year for a guy that doesn't want to play for you, that you don't want to play for you, that you've obviously washed your hands with, but you don't have what you want in return for him yet. You don't, at least on paper or in theory in these meetings, whatever. I guess the Jets haven't done enough to make the Packers say, yes, this is what we want to do. It's going to get interesting after the draft, but I think this should all be done before the draft, and now the draft is 2 weeks away.
No, I mean, if you look at it from the Jets standpoint, you want it after the draft because they want to use all this draft capital. I believe they have the 13 pick and 2 picks in the 40s.
42nd and 43rd overall.
So I think the Jets want to use it now. I think they're more comfortable trading future draft picks than this year.
But then it's like...
But then you're getting into a dangerous spot.
Yeah, then
it's getting late.
Yep, because then you get into a weird area where it's like, okay, we know the value of having... I honestly thought when they traded Elijah Moore, who's a pretty good player, and I think is going to have a breakout season with the Browns. He's going to be their number 2 or 3 guy. Amari Cooper, Peoples-Jones, we'll see. But when they traded him just for that pick, to me it screamed, okay, this is an extra pick that we can add into the Aaron Rodgers. If the draft comes, then... you let go of a young receiver that you drafted that 2 years ago people were thinking was the future. What was that pick for? I expect Joe Douglas and those guys to draft well again, but I expect them to want to get this done before the draft to use some of these picks. There's value in those picks. Once the draft goes, your future picks, they're unknown. We have no idea where they're going to be.
It's interesting. What if the Packers don't get anything done and they get a future one from the Jets? how do we know Aaron Rodgers is playing more than 1 year? I could see this whole thing.
Want to do that.
I know. I could see this whole thing falling off a cliff, and that being another top 10 pick in 2 years.
Because the Jets wanted insurance on this thing.
Yeah.
So they're saying, okay, how about we give you a 2, and if he plays another year, it can turn into a 1, something along those lines. I think that's what it was. It was like they if he retires, they don't want that to be a first-round pick. I think there's like different things that they were trying to. But as of right now, none of that matters because they're not talking. They're dug in on their sides. You've got Joe Douglas making public appearances with Boomer and Gio from WFAN saying he's going to be here. That's a guarantee from the GM publicly. And now you've got Mark Murphy saying, I can't speak on that, and let's see who blinks first.
What was that? I mean, you've watched some of the clips from that live Boomer and Gio. Of course, Boomer and Gio, the morning show, WFAN, TBS Sports Network. Do you think that was a guarantee, or do you think he was feeling the crowd?
It doesn't matter. You're the GM of the New York Jets.
Yep.
You're putting your face, your voice, your likeness on the line, your job on the line by saying when the fans, Boomer got right to it. What's up with Aaron Rodgers? He's going to be here. That's basically guaranteeing that we're going to get this done. And then I think the Packers on the other end are like, don't make any guarantees on our property, on our guy, on our best player we've ever had that we're willing to trade to you for the right price, but you haven't come to the table with the right price yet.
What if they wait till after the draft and teams start to report? They're actually starting pretty soon. And after the draft, almost all the teams report for off-season workouts. What if a team with a veteran quarterback, the QB tears his ACL in practice? What if your team, the Dallas Cowboys, what if Dak Prescott gets hurt? Not an unlikely scenario.
Cooper Rush, not a good example.
But what if all of a sudden circumstances change and a second team is in on Aaron Rodgers? I know that's not really being talked about and seems kind of unlikely.
I think there will be.
Do you think there will be? Wouldn't that be juicy?
If the draft passes and these teams draft quarterbacks, right? This is a quarterback-heavy draft.
Yeah.
If the draft passes and there is a team that only really has one solid quarterback on their roster.
But they're not going to pay $60 million for Aaron Rodgers. That's
Aaron
about
Rodgers,
the money.
though. It depends.
Say you're Tennessee. Are you going to pay $60 million if you don't think you're on the brink of a Super Bowl? The Jets think they're right there. They have talent all over their roster.
Exactly. The Jets think that they're right there. But, yeah, this is where
when you put it that way, it does sound funny.
This is where we're at, though. Craig Carton floated the idea that the 49ers were interested last week. No one really bought into that.
Well, I talked to Craig about that.
He said he had his sources.
He said that the Niners did talk to the Packers.
Sure they did. I mean, right now they have Trey Lance and a hurt Brock Purdy that they think is going to be ready.
Don't forget Sam Darnold.
Oh, yeah. Silly me for counting out Sam Darnold.
Watch Kyle
He's
Shanahan.
very easy to forget. He's very forgettable.
I totally agree, but Keith, watch out for Kyle Shanahan because he can turn mediocre quarterbacks into really good quarterbacks. Sam Darnold could have a second life there. You just never know what's going to happen.
California kid. He'll probably be better suited over there.
You never know what's going to happen in that quarterback room. I get the Aaron Rodgers thing, but that's the thing. The Jets are playing with a little bit of fire. But I kind of disagree with you in the sense that I think it really is done. I think they're waiting for the draft to pass, and then they're going to execute it.
Let's see. It has been the longest ongoing off-season day. Like I said, if I'm a Jets fan, I hate all of this. Mm-hmm. And as a New York City radio host on WFAN, I've had to talk about it every single day. It has taken over shows every step of the way. Derek Carr gets signed. Oh, what does this mean? Alan Lazard, Odell Beckham Jr. It's every different thing that goes on and how it could play into Aaron Rodgers. When's he going to be on Pat McAfee? He's in his darkness retreat. When's he coming out? This whole saga has been, so overplayed and over-talked about. I'm just ready for it to end one way or the other.
Yeah, see, I'm used to it. This is my third Rodgers offseason. As a national show, he leads the offseason.
And he loves it.
Of course he loves it.
He loves being the center of attention.
And it will always be that way. I don't think the guys, here's another theory. The guys who talk about retirement like Rodgers did, they don't always retire. I mean, Favre obviously came back and forth 2 or 3 times. A lot of guys, Ben Roethlisberger talked about retirement forever. Then he didn't even want to go at the end. I think it's hard to walk away, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers is on the brink of retirement.
And I don't believe him. I watched the Pat McAfee interview where he said that he was 90% retired in the darkness. You were willing to have your last game be the Detroit Lions beating you in Lambeau. You were 90% retired after that. After one of your worst years, you were 90% ready to hang it up after that. I don't believe that. I think Mark Murphy's comments got back to him, and then he played the game with Pat McAfee to say that. kind of to let the Packers know, like, I was about to retire.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to play another year and stick it to the league.
Yeah, don't screw around with me because I'll retire if you don't trade me to where I want to go. It definitely was something like that. All right, well, Shefty promises a few more weeks of drama. Should be a lot of fun. But next, we're going to talk to a Lakers reporter, Dan Woike. Is there panic in L.A. after last night's close call? Or does he believe in LeBron James like I do, Keith? We'll be right back here on Maggie and Perloff. But first, a sports update with Dexter Henry.
Sports Flash.
All right, guys, thank you. Your update is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with our easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. When it comes to MLB expansion, a West Coast city has thrown its name into the ring. According to ESPN, the Salt Lake City group, led by former owner of the Utah Jazz, plans to pursue a Major League Baseball franchise in the coming years. Big League Utah, a group headed by longtime Jazz owner Gail Miller, will join Nashville's Music City Baseball and the Portland Diamond Project and lobbying to join the current 30 MLB organizations. MLB action going on right now. Bottom 8, the Twins on top of the White Sox 2-0. Top 9, the Yankees and Guardians tied at 3. The Mets up 4-2 over the Padres, bottom 7. Middle of the 5th, the Mariners have a 2-1 lead over the Cubs. And in the bottom of the 2nd inning, the Rockies and the Cardinals, they are tied at 1. One final today, the Astros, they blanked the Pirates 7-0. The NBA play-in tournament continues tonight. The 9th and 10th seeds in each conference will square off with the right to play for the final 2 playoff spots. In the East, it's the Bulls against the Raptors. And the winner plays Friday night in Miami. Out west, the Pelicans host the Thunder. I'm Dexter Henry.
CBS Sports Radio is everywhere, at home, in your car, and, of course, on your phone and tablet. Find us on your local affiliate, SiriusXM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, get to ask us a question, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply check out the link, cbssportsradio.com/askthepros, or tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio using the hashtag AskThePros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Guest co-host Keith McPherson today on the Maggie Perloff Show. In a moment, we're going to be talking to a Lakers reporter, because I think I'm the only one nationwide who walked away from last night's game, an ugly game, a weird game against the Timberwolves, and felt good about the Lakers, Keith. I am not panicking. I don't care if you go to overtime with a fired-up T-Wolves team. There's talent in Minnesota. I know Rudy Gobert wasn't there, but they have Karl Anthony Towns. They have Anthony Edwards. So I'm not as down as everyone else seems to be on the Lakers.
Yeah, and you've had so many days of this take. You've had so many days talking about this, and you have money on the line. Everything's working out right now.
All right, well, let's talk.
But the reality is that wasn't as easy as it could have or should have been. And now you face a young, hungry Memphis Grizzlies team that has come up short plenty of years. Remember, these are the guys that we're talking about challenging the Warriors. These guys carry themselves with this, like, swag and energy and all this dancing and theatrics. Like, they're ready to knock off the king.
We'll see. All right, well, let's talk to someone close to the team. Dan Woike covers the Lakers for the LA Times. Dan, you're talking to Andrew Perloff and Keith McPherson here in New York. And I've been trying to sell the Lakers to everybody, which is an unbelievable thing to have to do. What is the confidence level? What is the confidence level in LA after last night's play-in game?
I think there's some confidence, right? I mean, I think, I know in sort of the build-up to that game, there was sort of a narrative that this was going to be kind of an easy game, maybe a blowout. Even I saw they were 8.5-point favorites, stuff like that. I completely expected this to be a very tough game for a couple of reasons. One, I have been around the Lakers all year. I know what the last month has been like for the Lakers. I know what they've basically been playing playoff games since mid-February, and sort of like their attention to detail, their effort. And a lot of those games shorthanded, too. And so I kind of had a sense for their fatigue level. And they've also, by the way, struggled down the stretch playing teams that were shorthanded. And when teams are shorthanded, they play pressure-free, nothing-to-lose type basketball. And so I wasn't that shocked Also, I have a lot of respect for Minnesota. A lot of respect for Chris Finch. A lot of respect for Anthony Edwards. A lot of respect for Carl Towns, and his talent especially. And, kind of expected that tough game. Now, did I expect the Lakers to, say, not be able to get the ball in bounds on some key possessions? Did I expect them to follow another three-point shooter at the end of a game? No, I didn't expect those kinds of mistakes. And if they're serious about beating Memphis, they're going to have to be much cleaner. That all being said, right, this was sort of about getting there. And the schedule just came out. The schedule is very favorable for them in terms of rest and in terms of time. And, they're underdogs against Memphis. They should be. But it's not I expect a very tough series.
Yeah, I expect a tough series for the Lakers. And I'm a Nets fan. So I've watched KD, Kyrie, have to, come together and get the team chemistry together for the playoffs the last couple years. And there's always talk about gelling and chemistry. And will these guys be able to come together to make a run? I'm sorry, I just don't feel like the Lakers can come together and make a run. As I'm looking at the box score from last night, they didn't shoot better from deep or just in general than the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves blew a 15-point lead. There were things in that game last night that point to the Timberwolves should have won that game. The Lakers kind of escaped that game in overtime. What adjustments do you think that they will have to make or will make facing a young Memphis team that I was just saying to Perloff, these guys, they are used to scoring 120, 130 points a game. They're rested, they're ready, and they have a chip on their shoulder because they've come up short the last few years.
Well, let me push back a little bit just on one thing that, and I think that this has to do with the Lakers too. Yes, you're right about kind of kickstarting chemistry, and ideally that is it's sort of like a chili, right? You want to cook it all day. You don't want to just throw a bunch of stuff in a pot and have it in 10 minutes. And that is sort of how this Lakers team has been built, right? This has not been a long, slow simmer. Maybe barbecue would have been more than Memphis. But I will say the Nets didn't lose, especially their first year healthy together because of lack of chemistry. They lost because of injuries. And that's still, they're a toenail away, right, from beating the Milwaukee Bucks. And I think when you hear LeBron James talk, when you hear Anthony Davis talk, they're not worried so much about chemistry. They're worried more about health. And I think we did see chemistry problems against Minnesota. You look at things passes to cutters, kind of bouncing off a hand and just not quite being exactly where you needed to be, not quite having the exact timing, right? I think that's an issue, and I don't know how you fix that, right? I think you just got to keep playing together and you figure it out. But I will say, in terms of, that game last night, yeah, you're right. Minnesota played better for three quarters, or most of three quarters. But I think the Lakers, wore them down defensively. They were outstanding in the fourth quarter and outstanding in overtime. And that's been who they've been, since the All-Star game. I think the second best defense in the NBA, definitely the best defense in the Western Conference since the NBA trade deadline. Yes, on one hand, Minnesota had their chances certainly to put the Lakers away. But I think, and this isn't always easy for me to do, I think reluctantly I have to give the Lakers credit. I think, you saw them go to a different level defensively, especially their stars. Anthony Davis, great at cleaning up mistakes at the rim, and LeBron James defensively, his effort level, if that can be replicated, and look, like I said, they're going to play. They don't play a home game in the playoffs, until a week from Saturday. That's game 3. So, this is good. They're going to have time. They're going to play 3 games in a week in Memphis. They haven't played 3 games in a week, it feels like, in forever. You might get to see LeBron James play 40-plus minutes, play at that kind of level, that level of intensity defensively. And, yes, the Nets weren't the cohesive unit they wanted or needed to be, but sometimes it's talent, and when you have LeBron James and you have Anthony Davis, even against the team with John Morant and Jaren Jackson, you're going to have the top end talent advantage.
We're talking to LA Times. Dan Woike covers the league and covers the Lakers. Dan, before we get back to serious questions, LeBron James doing the ice water in the veins right after Schroeder hit the three. Keith and I have been arguing about this. Who originated, in your mind, whose celebration is this, if you happen to know? And did you like LeBron doing it, even though he only had the assist on what looked like the game-winning three?
Yeah, so I always associate that with D'Angelo Russell.
Right.
For me. And it was not really something the Lakers were doing until they acquired D'Angelo Russell. And it has been something they've been doing since.
Has LeBron been doing it?
Yes.
Okay.
Schroeder, Dennis has been really like one of the big evangelists for the celebration. I will say this. Yeah, I mean, look, man, LeBron can be a little corny sometimes, right? Like, I mean, crowning himself on Easter Sunday was a bit much for some people, perhaps. However, I don't know if you've seen Andy Bernstein, the Hall of Fame NBA photographer, like the image of those two guys doing the exact same celebration at the exact same time, looking away from each other. You talk about things like chemistry and stuff like that. I mean, look, Dennis Schroeder's not a stranger to this team, even though he's on a one-year deal. It's the second time back. Has a lot of, in his words, unfinished business with the Lakers, and has been kind of a maligned guy out here in Los Angeles. Darvin Ham loves him, trusts him, and because of that, he's in a lot of high-leverage situations, and sometimes he makes mistakes, and sometimes he misses shots or whatever, but, man, did he knock down a big one last night. And to me, you look for these things that you can kind of, can be sort of moments, right? Like the things that we remember. And one of the real crimes of this LeBron James era, and one of these real crimes, quite frankly, of the bubble championship, and I was there, I was inside, was that, there really wasn't, an iconic moment. I guess the Anthony Davis shot, the Mamba shot is the closest it comes in the conference finals. But, in terms of the finals, to me, the iconic image is Jimmy Butler slumped over, the guardrail. That's sort of the thing. And the Lakers guys haven't had a playoff game at capacity in Los Angeles since 2013. This is LeBron James and Anthony Davis. This is their first time playing a playoff-type game in front of a full home crowd because of the pandemic, because of, I think they played in front of 8,000 fans or something like that, half crowds against Phoenix, the year after. And so, to me, this has a chance. If this team can make a little noise, that's an image that you might see, on the wall somewhere someday. And that's, I always think that's cool.
Okay, we mentioned Mr. Ice in his veins himself, D'Angelo Russell, another former Net. So both of my questions are kind of Nets ties. He had the foot injury. He was probable and then played last night, but he had a down night, only 2 points. I think he's vital to the Lakers going up against the Memphis Grizzlies. Do you have any updates from him? Did he say anything after the game about how he felt? Ice in his veins. They need to ice up that foot. They're going to need him to be ready to run. I know he still played 24 minutes, but he just wasn't at his regular self.
I look forward to some Armin Gilliam or Kerry Kittles questions next week to get this talk going. I think, I don't think it was a health thing. I think it was a bad night. I think Minnesota was very, very motivated to make it hell on D'Angelo Russell, former teammate. I think sometimes some varying opinions. He's been a guy who's bounced around a little bit. He's a different dude. I've enjoyed my time around him. Extremely confident person, and didn't play well. Forced it a little bit early. Had too much adrenaline. You could see it. The first 3 shots were way long. Couldn't get a couple to fall. And I think it was just a really, really bad game. To me, the question will be, like you said, it's how does he bounce back, right? He is going to matter. They need his shooting. They need his playmaking. I will say, for despite the 2 points, I think, and the limited minutes, I think he finished with 8 assists last night. Which, that's what you need in the playoffs is if you're not scoring the ball, you got to help in another way, right? You got to either do it defensively. Ideally, you got to do it more than one, right? But at least it's got to be defensive. It's got to be as a playmaker. It's got to be as a floor spacer. You have to be bringing something in the table. You can't afford to have zeros, right? And on a night when he was basically a zero as an offensive threat, to score, he made positive plays as a playmaker, and I give him credit for that. And then Darvingham sat him, rightfully so, because Dennis Schroeder kind of grabbed a hold of the game, and it was his game, and that's sort of one of the luxuries the Lakers have, and we'll see how he responds to that.
All right, Dan, we're up against a break, but I hope we're talking Lakers for several more weeks. It sounds like that first series is going to take several weeks, but we appreciate the time, and we'll talk soon.
All right, sounds good, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Dan.
I feel better now talking to LA Times' Dan Woike. Painted a somewhat positive picture about last night's game, and I agree with him. The T-Wolves, obviously a very talented team. Last night was sloppy. I think they can get better, Keith.
I think they have to get better. If we had more time, I was going to ask him who wins more games, the Clippers or the Lakers first round.
Clippers drew a tough assignment in the first round. I'm also kind of into the Clippers. I'm going to pick random LA teams, but yeah, we'll see. We're going to break down the rest of the playoffs, but next we're going to talk about an NBA superstar who says he's healthy, but he's not playing. This is another indication of how soft guys are today? Or is it really the smart move? We'll get into that, and we're going to talk some more NFL draft next hour with CBS's Ryan Wilson. Stay with us. We are the Maggie and Perloff Show with special guest Keith McPherson today.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Perloff looks at me and goes, "The natty? Really?" He said it was like someone calling something cool the bomb. I think people are still saying the natty.
This is not about hip or not hip. It's not like any 21-year-old walking in Brooklyn and saying the natty.
Do you call winning the championship the chip?
If you said he's got 2 chips, oh boy, I would have really given you a look.
Washed has somehow maintained a much longer presence than it ever should have.
I get my lettuce at the grocery store triple wide.
This is the man claiming to be the coolest person on the show.
I'm definitely hipper than Axe.
Ackerman,
I don't know about that. I wouldn't go there.
You're wearing a Ralph Lauren polo 3/4
yeah.
shirt.
What's wrong with that? A little
you
class.
make Eli Manning look like he's ready to walk the catwalk at Fashion Week.
Who are you, Ralph Lauren himself?
When did the Mannings become fashion icons?
They did not.
Step off, Dad.
Here are Maggie and Perloff.
You just got Perloff today. Maggie Gray is in Mexico. I am lucky enough to be here with a special guest co-host, Keith McPherson, WFAN in New York. Keith is having sort of a short week because he's got some bigger things to do. Well, I don't know if they're bigger, but they seem to be big to him.
They're colossal.
I don't know.
So much so that I can't go to work.
Can we spill the beans that you are about to be a father later this week?
Tomorrow. My wife called a little bit before the show to give the good news and share the good news. We go in tomorrow at 11 a.m. and we'll go into the hospital with 3 of us or 2 of us and leave with 3.
Are you ready?
Nah, and I don't think it's like a ready thing. I'm not doing anything. I hope my wife is ready.
Keith.
I'm not doing anything
Keith.
tomorrow.
You are.
Yeah, I'm in there for emotional support. I will hold her hand and tell her she's pretty and great and the best and all those type of things. But I hope the doctors are ready. I hope the people that work there are ready. I'm ready to meet my son, of course.
Yeah, no, it's going to be wild. And the funny thing is, you are just really, not only are you a professional sports radio host, you are a big fan. You consume a lot of sports. Yeah. I can tell this already.
Every day. I don't really have any, like I always say this, I don't watch Netflix. I don't watch streaming shows. Yeah. I don't go to the movie theater. When I turn on the TV, we're looking for live sports every time.
Okay, so it's baseball. I know you cover the Yankees a lot. Mm-hmm. It's the Brooklyn Nets basketball and any other NBA.
And the whole NBA.
It's Dallas Cowboys football.
And Jets and Giants football and the whole NFL for sure. I think I watched the whole NFL more than I watched the whole MLB and NBA, yeah.
Okay, you're from New Jersey. Now, you played college football, but what about being from New Jersey and I'm from Philadelphia, the Northeast, as a young kid, you don't really get college football up here, in my opinion, the same way you do in the rest of the country.
Rutgers, I guess. But there were so many down years for Rutgers. There's not like a big following for Rutgers outside of alumni.
Right.
Other than that, no. You know, even like I went to Monmouth University. It's a smaller school. It's not a huge following for football.
Is it? Who's the pro that went there? Victor Cruz?
There's a few. Victor Cruz went to UMass.
Oh, UMass, right.
But he did play in Patterson, New Jersey.
Okay.
Monmouth University, who you're probably thinking of, is Miles Austin.
Miles Austin, right. Oh, he was good. Cowboy.
Yeah, he was great.
Is he number 19?
19.
Yep.
He wore 80 at Monmouth. He went to Garfield High School, I believe. He was just with the Jets as a coach, but I guess they caught him gambling on one of these apps. He wasn't gambling on football, but he was, I think playing blackjack on one of these apps, and they got him out of the paint. But Yeah, him. Chris Hogan went to Monmouth.
Chris Hogan, the lacrosse player?
The lacrosse player,
I
yes.
thought he was Penn State.
Famously All-American at Penn State. His last year, he came to Monmouth for his 5th year. That would have been my 5th year. I gave my scholarship back so I could focus on school and never actually played with Chris Hogan. But, yeah, he went on to win Super Bowls with the Patriots.
Did you have any idea that Chris Hogan was going to be a Super Bowl winning wide receiver in the NFL?
No. I always tell a story about my friend Jose Gums, who's another player that went to the NFL, played for the, at the time, Redskins and the Saints. I was working out with them one day when Chris Hogan first showed up, and they're running routes, and he actually was playing safety. He was covering guys. He wasn't trying to be a receiver.
Right.
And he, I think, scored 2 touchdowns at Monmouth that year. They were just throwing him deep routes, go routes, post routes. Like, he was just fast enough to run on a straight line and beat the secondary. And I think that was all Bill Belichick had to see. And it took him a while. He bounced around. If you remember Hard Knocks with the Miami Dolphins, they were calling him 7-11 because he was always open. He didn't make the team, but he was with the Bills. He was with the 49ers. He was with, the Panthers, I think, after he was with the Patriots. He stuck with the Patriots. But, yeah, those are a couple guys that went to my school.
Wow. Do you know what team Chris Hogan ended his career with? There's no way you'll guess this.
I just said the Panthers. Wasn't he signed with
he did 2 more
Saints?
teams after the Saints. Oh, wow. You do know you're Chris Hogan.
I should.
By the way,
I just saw him at Mohegan Sun a year ago. He was there for the FanDuel Sportsbook kickoff event. And it was funny because I'm there as a radio host. And he was with Gronk and Danny Amendola and this guy Tommy who played football at Monmouth with us. It was yo, what's up? I'm a football player, but I'm not a famous football player. I played in college with you guys. Now I'm on the radio. They were super happy for me, and it was cool to
that's awesome.
Yeah, be at the event with them like that.
I got to tell you though, I knew the Patriots were getting in trouble around 2017-18. I know they were winning Super Bowls, but that Chris Hogan, Danny Amendola wide receiver core, that was spelling the end for Tom Brady.
Yeah, it was how many Amendolas can you try and make? Really, Wes Welkers. That's what they were all. They were after Wes Welker.
But you need more than that. I saw Brady was so miserable by the end of that stay in New England. But this is not about the Patriots. Okay. We obviously have been talking a lot of Lakers. Edged the T-Wolves in overtime last night. I am open for Lakers-Grizzlies bets. I got LeBron. I'm backing the Lakers. I've already told you 100 times I got him at 40-1 in February.
Good for you.
Now it's 16-1.
It's not going to cash, but
I know, to win it all. People say to me, "Oh, you mean coming out of the West?" No,
to win the whole league,
win the whole thing. But there's other NBA news. So I'm a monster Zion Williamson fan. If it was up to me, if he was playing, he's the one player. I'd rather watch Zion play than my Philadelphia 76ers play. I find him
Then Embiid the MVP?
Yes.
Yeah, because I'd much rather watch Zion's game than Embiid's game any day.
I know. Embiid's game is sort of slow developing moves from the high post.
Yeah.
Zion, I've never seen a player like him. And for some reason, I love left-handed athletes. All my favorite guys are lefties. It's the most bizarre
My wife
thing.
is left-handed. I'm hoping tomorrow my son comes out left-handed. We won't know tomorrow, but if he's a left-handed kid.
Oh, baseball, right?
Definitely. Switch hitter. We'll
pitcher. Oh,
we putting him to work.
Can you force a baby to become left-handed?
Oh, yeah. All the time we hear it in baseball. Guys that have kids and they make their kid throw righty or throw lefty or, bat. So even BT was talking about his son's, I think, 8 years old, and he's like, yeah, we got him working on both sides. We're about to try and make him a switch hitter.
Brandon Tierney, of course, CBS Sports Network, formerly CBS Sports Radio. So, lefty, Nadal, tennis. I don't know if you're a tennis fan. I have a theory that he won half his majors because people didn't know how to play a lefty. You're used to going to a righty's weakness.
It's unorthodox.
Yes, and watching Michael Vick throw a deep ball is the most exciting thing in football.
Tua could stay on the field.
Ken Griffey Jr., my favorite swing of all time. Mm-hmm. And you might not like this, but Bryce Harper's my favorite current player. Of course, I'm a Phillies fan.
I love Bryce Harper.
When he hits a bomb, he
should have been a Yankee.
Yeah.
They didn't even call him.
So, Zion Williamson is a lefty. He is huge, but moves like a little guy. He's incredibly entertaining. When he came in the league, remember, they put 17 out of 21 games in prime time. Everyone wanted to see Zion, but we haven't seen him. So yesterday, he talks to reporters, and he actually says, Keith, that he's healthy. Let's hear a little bit of Zion from yesterday.
Physically, I'm fine. Now it's just a matter of when I feel like Zion. I know the atmosphere I'd be entering based off the playoff experience. So now it's just a matter of when I feel like Zion. I don't feel like there are any specific benchmarks for being Zion. It's a matter of when I feel like myself.
All right. Is he allowed to use third person that much?
I'm about to say, it is about how you say it, not what you say. It's about how you say it. It's like I have the quote right here. When I read the quote, and that's my first time hearing the audio. I didn't actually watch the video because I didn't really care. He's
how
not
did you
playing.
Read it as you read it in your head?
Physically, I'm fine. Now it's just a matter of when I feel like Zion. I understand the magnitude of the games coming up, but I don't want to be out there hesitating or doing something that may affect my team in a bad way.
Okay, so the way you said it didn't sound like obnoxious third person.
No, it sounded more like a guy that's like, hey, I can't just step in here in a play-in, do-or-die elimination game and be effective. I might mess something up for the other guys, and I don't want to be second-guessing my own abilities.
The thing is, it's been a while now that we haven't seen Zion. He had such a minor injury. I believe was it February or January? It didn't look like anything. It looked like he could come back later in the game.
Yeah.
And he's still out. So I do think there's a valid question. Are we ever going to really see?
Of course we are.
So you think he's going to be closer to Joel Embiid than Greg Oden? Greg Oden never got it together. Embiid missed a couple years early, and now he's healthy all the time. So you think Zion will get it together. So you're
He's 22.
thinking big, long picture.
He's 22 years old. And so within the next, 15 years, I think we're definitely going to see this kid play. And I think he wants to play. He's a freak of nature. And, I was a Duke fan. I hate saying it now because, people here are like, Yankees, Cowboys, and you rooted for Duke. But when Duke came here
that is weak.
TV. I was marketed all of these teams as a kid. They were winning and they were on TV. I didn't have a computer. I didn't have a cell phone back then. All I had was cable television, so I went with them. But what I'm saying is I followed the team. They came here to play Texas Tech at Madison Square Garden. There was so much hype around Zion, RJ, Cam Reddish, this Duke team. And he was ridiculous. Like his high school videos to his college videos, the hype was understood. But he's a number 1 overall draft pick. And I think when the Pels got him, they thought that he was a franchise-changing guy. Speaking of, your Lakers, AD, we all remember what happened there. But you get Zion, and it's like, screw AD, good luck. Like, we've got the next superstar in this league that's going to take over this league, but he hasn't been able to take over. And when I hear him talk about when I feel like Zion, when I'm Zion again, who is Zion? We don't know in this NBA who Zion is, and you're speaking of yourself like you've dominated or like you've been available. It's like, bro, tone that down a little bit, and we understand you taking precautions so that you are healthy and you are right, but there's been something every year of your short career.
Mm-hmm.
John Morant's healthy. John Morant's just got to stay out of the strip clubs and off Instagram Live. Anthony Edwards has come into this league and shown us why he's the number 1. He didn't show us last night. That's going to happen. But for Zion, I was in Brooklyn in Barclays Center, game 1, when the Pels came in and dominated KD and Kyrie. And to me, I'm like, oh, the Pels are going to have a big year. They were in it last year. If they get this version of if they get this version of Zion that we saw in the beginning of the season, they were going to dominate. They didn't have him. And I mean, I remember the video of him dunking in the offseason last year, and everyone was
one that looked like there was a trampoline on the floor.
Yeah.
So we asked a Pelicans executive if there was a trampoline on the floor. She said it was the way the camera looked.
Regardless, the hype around Zion is because we've seen this kid coming out of South Carolina
I remember
dunking
the YouTube
basketball.
clips.
Yeah,
yes.
We've known about him since he was 16.
Yep.
An absolute monster. And we've been waiting for him to get to the NBA, and he's been in the NBA 3 years, and we haven't been able to get a full season. And the Pelicans have been in the hunt the last few years, and he would be the difference. But again, he's not available, and they might get bounced tonight.
If you had to pay to see one player in the NBA and try and take your allegiance out of this, who would you most willingly pay a ticket for? Just one guy to see.
Right now?
Right now.
Steph.
Okay.
If not, I haven't seen Steph live. I actually did see Steph live last year in Barclays. It just wasn't fun because at the end of the game, the Warriors fans started chanting MVP as I was literally walking out of the door. Then the next day, they made it sound like Nets fans were chanting MVP for Steph. I'm like, what goes on? I would say Steph just because I think Steph is a rare breed GOAT. They don't give him enough credit still. I've seen LeBron. I would pay, I guess, to see LeBron. other than LeBron and
how about if I gave you a healthy Zion? Would you put him in the conversation of guys you'd pay to see?
I saw him earlier this year, and he is worth the price of admission, but he's not available.
John Morant.
John Morant is exciting, too. I would pay to see John Morant.
Okay, I would go Zion if he was healthy, and then Steph's right there for me. But I got to tell you, my all-time guy, and I know you're going to like this, my all-time guy, now I'm from Philly, so Dr. J is grandfathered in, of course. The guy who I enjoy watching play basketball more than anyone, your former net, Vince Carter.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing like Vince Carter. I remember when he came in the league in 98, I believe. He missed a dunk, and it was the most exciting miss I've ever seen in my life. The way he played basketball, you're just in awe of it.
That's the thing. You don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to dunk that? Is he going to lay that up? Wait, is he going to pull up and shoot? Is he going to take him off the dribble? He was a superhero. I still have my middle school Vince Carter New Jersey swingman. I still wear it. And when he came to the Nets, that was after they lost back-to-back finals. But as a kid, I'm thinking there's no way they don't get to the finals and win it now with Vince. You guys know what happened. It didn't pan out that way. Can you believe they left him off the NBA 75 list?
No. And James Harden made it?
And AD made it?
AD made it over him?
I'm like, are these like Gen Z voters?
I don't know.
Because Vince Carter was a literal superhero icon. Talk about the dunk contest. Now we got to put Mac McClung in the dunk contest. The best dunk contest was with Vince Carter. It's over. Arm in the rim. Like, this guy was iconic from UConn to Toronto to the Nets, and then he played for like 8 different teams. He's still
effective.
He's still
a defensive stopper.
He just retired like 2 years ago, and he's still doing NBA TV, NBA Today. I felt like the NBA made a huge mistake leaving him off the NBA top 75 list. I'm like, he's an icon. Not all of these guys on the list were iconic. He was iconic.
By the way, Mac McClung, who's I think the 14th man on the Sixers bench, they picked him up from the G League right before he won the dunk contest. Scored 20 points in the last game of the season. There you go.
Yeah, and Cam Thomas went off for 46, and he's not going to sniff the court in this upcoming series.
I got to tell you, if Mac McClung gets on the court against your Nets, you know you have a problem, or someone has a problem.
Well,
that
if
means
Mac
it was
McClung
blowout.
gets on the court, that means Embiid went off for 50.
Yes.
And Jock Vaughn threw in the towel, and that would mean that there's still 2 or 3 games left in the series.
I kind of hope that it's Embiid goes for 50 and it's over early as a Sixers fan. We'll get to that later. Next, let's talk about the NFL draft. We're talking to a good friend of the show, CBS Sports' Ryan Wilson. Keith, have you heard about this new S2 test? I mentioned to you the other day, but it's become the hottest topic in NFL draft circles. Ryan's going to tell us how it could possibly determine the number 1 overall pick. That's coming up next, right here on Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
On the Maggie and Perloff Show, special guest co-host Keith McPherson. Tomorrow marks 2 weeks from the NFL draft, Keith, and you know we love the NFL draft. And when we are in Kansas City, this is a person I hope to run into, of course, because he is an expert on all things draft and one of the great guys in the NFL draft business and really, really knows his stuff. Talking about CBS's Ryan Wilson, of course, CBS Sports HQ, Pick Six Pod, which is one of my favorite podcasts. Ryan, how you doing? Am I going to see you in Kansas City?
You will not unless you Skype me, unfortunately, Perloff. We're going to be in the studio, I think, and primarily because CBS, unfortunately, doesn't have broadcast rights. So we're just sort of watching you guys work, and then we're doing things before and after. So I won't see you there, but I'll be there with you and Maggie in spirit.
Oh, well, what about the barbecue? You could have at least suggestions for me? I know you are a aficionado of barbecue.
Yeah, I'm a North Carolina guy, though, so I don't know. Like, I'm not that deep into the weeds in terms of the distinctions between the varying levels of barbecue. I know people try to talk me. I mean, I go to Stanford. We have a studio in Stanford, Connecticut, and people try to talk me to Connecticut barbecue, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm out on that. That doesn't even sound like a thing. But I'll be interested to hear your feedback on Midwest barbecue versus North Carolina level barbecue.
Okay, will do. Ryan, Maggie's out today. I'm here with Keith McPherson, WFAN in New York. So, Ryan, number one pick overall. Last week, Chris Mortensen of ESPN comes out and says that everyone's wrong. It's going to be Bryce Young. Then it later sort of came out that he was doing a mock draft on air. But the odds have changed. All the winds seem to be blowing towards Bryce Young going number 1 to Carolina. Is this going to be the case?
I don't think so. I've been talking to some folks even before, right after the Panthers traded up and before the pro days, because Rick Spielman and I, the former Vikings general manager, we do a podcast called With the First Pick, and we went to all 4 of the quarterback pro days. So the Panthers trade up, and before we left for the pro days, the word was CJ. Then the pro days happened. Of course, the Panthers were well represented at all those pro days, and I was talking to some folks in the last few days, and I think it's still CJ. I don't think it's Bryce. We shall see. I see the lines moving, and I mean, you guys know this as well as anyone. It's one thing when insiders break news, whether it's our Jonathan Jones or Schefter or Ian Rappaport, because there's some leverage at play. There's a transactional relationship. But the draft world is a little different because there's no incentive for a general manager to tell someone in the media what they are going to do. So when they make these odds in Vegas, they're literally going off media and mock draft information, and I think that's why sometimes you see these wild swings. And also why Trevon Walker wasn't even on the board as the first overall pick until so late in the process a year ago. So I still think it's CJ. I think they like CJ's size. I think Bryce is a better player. They're both really good, but I think the Panthers are all in on CJ. And I know that the Texans absolutely love Bryce, and they were actually considering trading up before the Panthers went from 9 up to 1.
Hey, how's it going? This is Keith. I have a question. Because we see this every year, right? I feel like we always see quarterbacks drop. Last year, Malik Willis was talked about as being the number 1 quarterback, and then you wait, and he's a second-round guy. Now, with these 4 guys, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson, do you think one of them could potentially drop out of the top 10, or you think these guys are definitely gone in the top 10 this year? This is going to be like a record-breaking draft as far as the amount of quarterbacks we see taken in the first round.
No, Keith, that's so important that you brought that up, because I was actually having this little thought experiment the other day, because as you point out, Malik Willis, we were trying to talk ourselves into him as a first-round pick. Matt Corral out of Ole Miss, Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati, Sam Howell out of UNC, and the only one that went in the first round was Kenny Pickett. No team traded up for him. The Steelers got him at 20, and then the rest of the guys go on late day 2 or after. And so who in this class might fit that description? And Anthony Richardson started 13 games. His completion percentage is in the 50s. If you look at him on paper, not knowing what he looks like, you're like, okay, well, this guy's a backup. And then you see him, and he's 6'4", he's 240, and he runs a 4.4, and he might be one of the best pure runners in this draft class who's just learning how to command an offense as a quarterback. There's a lot of volatility there. Do you want to draft him 4 and bet on the upside, or are you going to be realistic and realize that he's probably a late first round, probably second round guy based solely on the tape? And I think he goes top 10. Saying all that, I was at his pro day, and it's fair or not, people fall in love with players when they see them in person, and I was guilty of that with Anthony Richardson. It felt like a life-changing event on some level. A name to watch, though, guys, is Will Levis, and Will Levis is a great kid. He's incredibly smart. He comes off a little – I'm trying to find the right word here. He's sort of weird in the interviews is what I've heard from teams. Yeah. Not bad, not terrible, not a terrible person, not a great teammate, but just it was hard to pinpoint when you want your quarterback to be a leader. Bryce Young, he aced every question asked of him, and it was unclear sort of where to slot Will Levis in those interviews. Teams came away feeling a little weird about it. And I think that with the uneven tape from 2022, and there are thousands of reasons why he didn't play up to his level of 2022, it wasn't lack of toughness. He's probably the toughest kid in this draft class. I think he has a chance to fall out of the top 15. I know there's some teams that are they're not interested in drafting him top 15. And then the question becomes between pick 20 and 31 in the first round, who will be interested? The Buccaneers are an obvious destination. Will a team trade up for him into the first round at the bottom to get that fifth-year option? The only team that might be willing to risk it at 4 of the Colts. So that could be an opportunity for him to go top 5. But I think realistically there's a better chance that he falls out of the top 5 than those 3 quarterbacks we've been talking about are off the board by that point.
Talking to Ryan Wilson, CBS Sports. By the way, Sam Howell was ridiculously lasted to the 5th round, and I think he's actually going to start. But that's besides the point. Ryan, there's a lot of buzz this draft season about a new test. It's actually not that new, but kind of newish, the S2 cognitive test. Now, it used to be the Wonderlic, which is way different. But now everyone's talking about Bryce Young aced this S2 cognitive test. Reportedly, Will Levis did well. I've heard Anthony Richardson did well. And it's not just for quarterbacks. It's for all positions. Are you hearing more about that test this year? And is there anything, non-insiders should know about this test? Is it going to really determine maybe the order of the top 10 come April?
So I don't know specifically about the S2 in terms of how teams are using it, but I can tell you this, Andrew, and talking to Rick Spielman, and I talk to him all the time. We spent the last 2 months together traveling all over the place. He said that, obviously he drafted Christian Ponder in the first round. That didn't work out. And he said at that point, we knew he was smart, and we knew his tape was pretty good. What we had trouble identifying analytically was that he wasn't processing information as quickly as he needed to when 300-pound defensive linemen are bearing down on him, and that's where we made the mistake. And he spent a lot of time, and a lot of teams have done this in the last decade since, focused on analytics to identify what makes a good player and what doesn't make a good player. And you can find those things in the tests you're talking about or similar tests. And Rick told me they spend a lot of money to get these tests done. They get them at the All-Star games, the Combine. They get these players to take these tests. And one of the things he's talked about on the podcast is that the social maturity metric for wide receivers is a great indicator for whether they will be successful at the next level. Less so for other positions, but if you're socially, quote-unquote, immature, according to one of the tests they give you, as a wide receiver, no matter how successful you were in college, you will probably struggle at the next level. And that's one of the things they didn't know 10, 12 years ago because they didn't have the data. And I think that's where we're going overall, with this overall approach of analytics and data and marrying up what a test tells you with what happened in college and what the results look like based on the on previous data where you have the ability to do the math and figure out where the correlations are. And I think that's sort of what we're getting at with this S2. Now, I don't know the specifics of the questions, what was asked, and that part of it. But I can say in the teams I've spoken with, Bryce Young was off the charts, incredibly smart in terms of the X and O's, in terms of just everyday stuff. And Will Levis as well, what was in that regard, came off well, as did C.J. Stroud.
Wait. The social maturity for wide receivers, one of the best young receivers I've ever seen come in the NFL was Odell Beckham Jr., and I would say 22-year-old Odell Beckham was known for his maturity. It feels like
Randy Moss.
Randy Moss, yeah.
I'll actually ask Rick what if he remembers what his test scores, because it's one thing to be immature, hanging out with your buddies as a 22-year-old. It's something else to the test results, that the questions they ask to sort of suss out what measures whatever their metric is from social maturity. That could be completely different. But I take your point. And in general, any 22-year-old with $10 million probably is going to act like I did when I was 22 and had $10. And I get that part. But yeah, I can't push back too much on Odell Beckham as a young man.
As I'm looking at Tankathon and all of these mock drafts and projections, I just think that this draft is going to have some of the best defensive players drop out of the first 10 picks. There's going to be guys that are surefire starters, defensive rookie of the year types that aren't going to get selected to the, later in the first round because of all the hype around the quarterbacks and a couple receivers. I don't expect a running back to be taken in those early picks. I don't think anything has changed with Jalen Carter, Will Anderson. I think those guys. But who's one guy that's a sneaky pick that you think there's a team that either loves this defensive player or this guy did everything he needed to do at the Combine or his workout that his stock is rising? Who's that first defensive player that you think might surprise people? Maybe a corner? I'm kind of looking at the DBs.
No, that's a good place to start, Keith. Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon's a guy that's going to get a lot of top 10 buzz and may end up going in the top 10, 6'2", 190, ran in the 4.4s. I think his parents were track stars or basket. They played, they're Division I athletes. And his sister, I think, is an Olympic track star. So the bloodlines are there. And he turns out a really good football player, great ball skills. Devin Witherspoon is another guy to keep an eye on, 6 feet, 185, so he's not quite as tall. And he'll blow you up. He hits people like he's Antoine Winfield playing safety, but he has great coverage skills, had a great season at Illinois, ran a 4.4 last week at his workout. And if he went top 10, that would not surprise me either. And I'll give you guys a name that never started a game in college, and I laugh every time I say it. I watched him play in the fall, and I thought, good player. He should probably come back to school because he's young. Lucas Van Ness, the edge rusher out of Iowa. 6'4", almost 6'5", 272, ran a 4.58. And when I talked to teams about him, I said, okay, I watched him. I like him. I don't love him. Why are we talking about him in the first round? Because I thought he was a day 2 guy just based off the tape. And they said, Defensive line coach is going to fall in love with him because he can put 15 pounds on him, and he is just learning to play football. He's young. And when you put those things together, that's how sometimes you see the disparity from the people in the mock draft community and what teams are seeing and thinking, and sometimes it doesn't marry up. And I think Lucas Van Ness has a chance to be a top 15 guy, and maybe even go higher than that, depending on how much a team truly loves him.
Talking to Ryan Wilson, CBS Sports. Okay, Ryan, your latest mock draft has some trades. And the one that actually, I've seen other places too, you have the Titans going up to number 2 to grab a quarterback. And then you also have the Colts moving from 4 to 3. I know this is kind of a big move from 11 into the top 3, but is there a realistic chance Tennessee's going to try and get their guy come draft night?
Well, I mean, there are talks that they're out on Malik Willis already, and we just talked about him going in the third round last year when there was all that first round buzz in the media. So, yeah, right? Ryan Tannehill's 35, last year of his deal, and I don't know where they're at. I have to check my notes. I think they like CJ. Obviously, they like Bryce. I'm just trying to do the math on whichever quarterback goes first. I think they're out on Levis, if I recall correctly. Either way, if you love one of those guys, no matter who it is, and you have to go up to 2 to get it, you go do that. And what was it, 2 years ago? 49ers went from 12 to 3 to get Trey Lance. So it's certainly doable. Now, the price is incredibly high, and you could argue quite easily that 49ers were fine as is. Brock Purdy being Mr. Irrelevant, they would have been fine going in that direction as well, but hindsight and all that. So, yeah, if you love someone and the understanding is you're not doing much in the playoffs with a franchise quarterback anyway. I say it all the time. You can have 21 Hall of Famers on your roster. If you don't have a quarterback, it doesn't matter. So the other thing is Andrew, is that you hit on these quarterbacks a quarter of the time in the first round, so you have to understand that one of these guys is only going to work out. The other 3 are probably going to be bust. But you got to roll the dice, and you fingers crossed it works out. And if you get your guy, you feel great about it.
Here's a question about the top running back prospect. I think Andrew's team might be interested in him, but Bijan Robinson, we're in a world now where they're not paying running backs, where they're telling you don't draft a running back, number 2 overall, like a Saquon Barkley, but they compare Bijan Robinson to Saquon Barkley. And if he's a Saquon Barkley comp, he can come in and help a team right away. Realistically, I think he's a top 15 pick for the right team. Where do you see him falling, or where do you see him going?
Keith, I put up my top 100 last week, and I think I had Bijan just in terms of sheer player performance. I had him number 7. And that sort of speaks to your point. He is a fantastic football player with 0 holes. The issue is, of course, he plays a position that there are going to be a ton of guys drafted that play that position. They won't be as productive as Bijan, most likely. They don't have the skills that God gifted Bijan, but that doesn't mean they can't come into the NFL and have success. And the other part of the math problem you have to solve is this. If you're the Eagles at 10 and they pick again at 30, you're going to get way more value at 10 at edge rusher or cornerback or another position in need, and then maybe at 30 you can get the running back if that's what you want to do there. But the problem is, if you're the Eagles and you really do love Bijan, and I think they had him in for a visit, there'll be a lot of teams in between 10 and 30 that could be eyeing Bijan as well. The Patriots at 14, the Buccaneers at 19. I love the idea of the Chargers at 21 getting Bijan Robinson. The Bills at 27 is crazy to think about, as are the Bengals at 28. So that's what you have to figure out, the calculus you're trying to figure out if you're these teams. I love Bijan. He comes in right away. He contributes. He can block, so he's on the field for 3 downs. He's incredibly really good as a pass catcher coming out of the backfield. And in that offense in Philadelphia in particular, it just feels like that it would go to the next level based on what we saw last year, even though Shane Steichen is now in Indianapolis.
All right, Ryan, when's the final mock draft come out? You have 2 weeks and a day. Are we a Thursday morning guy?
Either Wednesday or Thursday morning. It might be Thursday morning, Andrew, and luckily this is something my weekend. I have to do the 7-round mock draft that's stipulated in my contract, so that'll come out Monday.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's the right response. Oh, no. And then next week I think I'll have 2. I think I do it Monday of what I would do, and then on Thursday morning it'll be the final mock draft. That will probably most likely be the most incorrect of all the ones I've done.
Okay, I'm going to put a CBS Sports podcast question to you. It's a tragic fire in the CBS Sports HQ building, and you can save either your buddy, former GM Rick Spielman, or Will Brinson, our buddy, Who are you saving? Is it Rick or Will?
Oh, that's not even. I've known Brinson for 15 years. I'm saving Spielman. He is much more valuable to my day-to-day NFL draft goings on than Brinson. And we had a good run, Brinson. So I'm saving Spielman, and we're moving forward in our relationship.
Absolutely. I mean, in reality, I've met all of you. Spielman's probably saving you and Will is a more likely thing based on the physical proportions of the said people.
Yes, this is true.
All right, Ryan, we really appreciate the time and look forward to talking to you again before the draft. Thanks for all the info, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Man, I love draft. I love Bijan Robinson. I think your team's more likely to get him than mine because the Eagles are at 10. It's a little rich. If somehow he falls to the Cowboys, I mean, come on.
At 26, they'd have to draft up or trade up in the draft to get him. But I just don't think that they're going to do it.
No, you know what? They've been pretty smart about it. It's an aggressive move. I think Jerry Jones, running the show 15 years ago, would have done it. I agree, but he would fit nicely with a star on his helmet.
I think he fits nicely with so many teams.
Yeah.
I think he's a game breaker.
I know, but it's a running back. We saw Isaiah Pacheco, a 7th-round pick.
Yeah,
just
but that's
balling for Kansas City.
Whenever we try to take these examples, right, what are the chances that a 7th-round pick becomes Pacheco in that Chiefs offense? Andy Reid and those guys made him that. I saw him at Rutgers. I did not think that this kid, I knew he could run. I knew he had energy, but I did not think he'd be the leading rusher of the Chiefs. Even like a James Robinson, undrafted. Look at this guy's production. There's different guys. It's still football. Bijan Robinson on anyone's football team makes your team a lot better.
All right. We're going to get to that in a couple weeks with the NFL draft. Maggie and Perloff will be live in Kansas City. Can't wait. But next, we're going to debut a new segment here on the Maggie and Perloff Show. Yesterday, we had 3 of the craziest baseball stats you've ever heard, Keith. We're going to dive into all of them and much more right here on the Maggie and Perloff Show. But first, a sports update with our buddy Dexter Henry.
Sports Flash.
Thank you, guys. We start with NFL news. Giants running back Saquon Barkley will not be with the team when New York's offseason program begins on Monday. According to multiple outlets, the running back will skip the workouts because he does not want to sign the franchise tag tender. The Giants say they want to sign Barkley to a long-term deal, but there's apparently been little to no progress on such a deal. The Raptors and Bulls, the Pelicans and Thunder have the play-in stage tonight. The winners play in Miami and Minnesota on Friday night, with the 2 8 seeds on the line. Last night, the Heat took a 116-105 home loss from the Hawks. Then the T-Wolves blew a double-digit lead and lost in OT at the Lakers, 108-102. Atlanta and LA are the 7 seeds and face the Celtics and Grizzlies, respectively, starting this weekend. MLB Wednesday afternoon action. Let's check it out. Right now, top 9, Mariners up 5-1 over the Cubs. The Cardinals lead the Rockies 3-2. The Diamondbacks blanking the Brewers 4-0 in the 4th. The Marlins and Phillies, they are scoreless bottom of the 3rd. And also the Angels and Nationals, they are also scoreless. Finals from early: Yankees ground the Guardians 4-3. The Astros blanked the Pirates 7-zip. The Twins topped the White Sox 3-1. The Mets dropped the Padres 5-2. I'm Dexter Henry.
CBS Sports is everywhere, at home, in your car, and of course on your phone and tablet. Find us on your local affiliate, Sirius XM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back on Maggie and Perloff. Keith McPherson from WFAN in New York sitting in today. Maggie is off in Mexico. Really interesting talking to CBS Sports' Ryan Wilson, draft expert. He says it's not done in number one. It could be C.J. Stroud to the Panthers, or it could be Bryce Young. Feel free to give us a call, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Who do you think is going to be the number one overall draft pick in Kansas City 2 weeks and a day from today? All right, Keith, we are going to debut a new segment on the Maggie and Perloff show. I'm calling it Strange Numbers. That's the best I can come up with. Now, at Dan Patrick Show, we used to have Stat of the Day. Then Dan Le Batard did Stat of the Day, and ESPN's got all sorts of number one. So we're still working on the title. And I asked Stu to pull some music for this. And I said, how about She Blinded Me with Science? It's not numbers. Thomas Dolby, 80s hit.
Turning this up.
Not only had Stu never heard of it.
I never heard of it
You've
either.
never heard of it. She Blinded Me with Science is, I'm that old that I'm the only one in this room. Emmanuel Barberi, do you know this song?
No.
Oh my gosh! Is anyone out there?
Is this from that movie that?
It's from. I think it's from a Rodney Dangerfield movie. No, not Revenge of the Nerds. It's in Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, I believe. But we'll have to double check that.
Okay. I've never heard this. Let me see.
No, it was a huge hit in the 80s.
Who's the artist?
Thomas Dolby. He's sort of like an electronic. I don't know who he is.
Sounds like Rick
from
James.
Weird Science, I think. The movie. Do you know Weird Science? You don't even know Weird Science.
I know the title. I don't know anything about the movie or who played in it.
Well, now you're a guy. Are you like Stu Kovacs that you don't watch any movies? You don't know?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like when I talk on WFAN, I tell people I'm a wild sports fan. Come to me for your sports conversations because I don't spend any time on Netflix, HBO Max, streaming. I can't. I fall asleep. I don't know movies that have come out recently. Right. There's a lot of good movies out right now. Super Mario Bros. Air, Creed. I would like to see them, but I'm not going to actually go see them.
Saw Air is awesome. Seeing Super Mario on Sunday. Can't wait. Okay. Jordan, I'm going to give you 3 baseball stats that'll blow your mind. Number 1, Jordan Walker, Cardinals rookie, has an 11-game hit streak. He's one short of tying a 1912 record set by a guy named Eddie Murphy, which I find unbelievable that his name is Eddie Murphy. It's from 1912. Is this just pure luck, or is Jordan Walker a legit big-time prospect?
No, yeah, he's the truth. He's going to be around for a while. When we were talking earlier, I'm like, he's a mountain of a man. He's 6'6", 250, probably should be playing football. But he's a baseball guy. He's a hitter. He's going to be around. Get used to the name, Jordan Walker. You're going to be hearing from him and seeing him a lot. He's making his debut this year, but clearly he's not looking like a rookie.
All right. Stu, you have him on your fantasy team, I understand.
I do, yes. He was one of those rookie guys that a lot of people wanted because of his potential.
But you were saying the 11 games is not that big a deal, but he's been kind of getting one hit in all these games?
Yeah, no, he's been good. Don't get me wrong. He's been really good, but a lot of games have been like 1 for 4, 1 for 3. So he hasn't been hitting the cover off the ball, but he has been, like you said, consistently getting hits.
Okay, next strange number. Shohei Ohtani set a new franchise record during Tuesday's 2-0 win over the Nationals, his 10th consecutive start in which he surrendered 2 runs or fewer. It had previously been held by a guy named Nolan Ryan. So here's my question. Does that impress you? Because Angels records, they don't always mean so much. Is there a chance that Shohei Ohtani holds every pitching record and every hitting record for the Angels someday, Keith?
No, because he's out of there.
Oh,
they're not. He's not gonna stay with them because he's a guy that likes to win. Like we saw him win the World Baseball Classic and throw his hat and celebrate that. He's a unicorn. He's a freak. We've never seen anyone like him. He is not the Japanese Babe Ruth. He's the Japanese Shohei Ohtani, and he's going to have a bunch of records and weird, quirky stats, strange numbers when his career's over because he's just going to dominate. He's going to hit the ball. He's going to pitch, and there's no one like him in the game.
All right, finally, Marlins, Luis Arraez. First guy ever to hit for the cycle as a Marlin. How is this possible, Keith?
The Marlins aren't good.
But I mean, no one's ever hit for the cycle. They have not a new team.
Yeah, they haven't had a guy that could do what he can do. He is one of the best hitters in the league. He won the batting title for the American League last year. He edged out Judge for the batting title, which took the Triple Crown away from Aaron Judge. I couldn't believe they traded him, but they needed pitching that bad. So they trade Pablo Lopez for Luis Arraez straight up. Pablo Lopez will be whatever he is in Minnesota. Luis Arraez, speaking of the World Baseball Classic again, he was balling out for Venezuela in that same ballpark, Marlins Park, and kind of, letting the Marlins fans know, hey, this is what you're getting. And then he's coming to this season. The Marlins also aren't good again this year, but he's been consistent. He's going to hit, and I'm not surprised that he's the first Marlins player to hit for the cycle.
Are you impressed with the cycle? If I gave you a choice, three home runs in a game, or the cycle, which would you take?
The cycle. It's so hard to do. 3 home runs in a game. We've seen that in the World Series. The cycle, Pablo Sandoval. The cycle, you need a single. Okay, anybody can do. But it's like a psychological game, right? Because cycle alert, as soon as you get a single, double, or a triple, homer, or any 2 parts of that cycle, cycle alert, everybody knows that you're going for the cycle. And I don't think there's one guy that has ever said, yeah, I got the cycle alert, but I wasn't trying to get it. They all try and get it and go for it because it's that rare of a feat.
I think in the age of sabermetrics, when hits are not as valuable anymore, I don't know if the cycle is still as important.
He might be the only Marlin ever to hit for the cycle.
That's not how cool he is. That's how lame the Marlins are in my mind.
The cycle to me is impressive. It's fun to watch. It's so hard to do, and it's one of those things in baseball when you're watching a game and this guy he's got a double and a homer. All he's got to do is get a single and leg out a triple. Can he do it? Some of these guys are too big. Some of these guys, you see them and you're like, there's no way this guy's getting a triple.
Oh, come on. What if a triple could just be a right fielder makes a bad play and the guy gets an extra base?
Still got to be fast. Still got to be able to run to third base. It's impressive. 3 home runs could be, okay, you faced 3 terrible pitchers and you got fastballs and you turned on them.
That's not easy.
Not easy, but the cycle is harder than to hit the ball out 3 times.
All right, coming up, a major sports league is getting very serious about expansion. We'll talk about the perfect city or 2 cities next on Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
With Russell Wilson, my bar is pretty high for weirdness. Like, this just feels like a Tuesday for Russell Wilson. It's so funny because he's so straight-laced, but then he has the most bizarre little social media things you'll ever see.
That's what I want to know about Russell's marketing. What's the angle? What's the philosophy we're going for with this guy?
I'm unlimited. He's got that self-help vibe. You know how Tony Robbins comes off as kind of creepy?
That's the lane he's trying to go in?
That's the lane we're in right now.
Wow. I'm embarrassed for him.
Be careful, though.
Yeah.
It's like Wedding Crashers, and she's like, I'll find you. Remember that?
Yeah.
Be careful, though.
Are we doing serial killer? That's what's going to sell the sandwiches? Because
Spicy.
why? Because it's spicy?
It's spicy.
What a stone cold weirdo that guy is.
Unlimited.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. Keith McPherson, WFAN in New York, sitting in. It is a huge week for Keith, not only because he gets to be on the Maggie and Perloff show, CBS Sports Radio, Sirius XM Channel 158. In a matter of hours, he will hopefully be in the hospital with a newborn.
Tomorrow morning, definitely.
I'm
not counting down the hours, though.
You're shockingly cool. Yeah. I was a mess before my first kid.
Yeah, I'm fine. I don't know. I've been waiting for 9 months. This is week 40 of the pregnancy, and I think what it was Monday. We had a doctor's appointment where we knew it would be either today, and I knew yesterday when I was with you, I'm like, it's not going to be today. We haven't heard anything, but it's tomorrow. So now that I officially know my son will be born tomorrow, I'm cool. I'm just kind of like doing what I'm supposed to be doing, which is working, and I'm happy to be here on your show. Versus tonight. If I had to do my 5-hour show tonight on WFAN, that would be a little bit harder because I'd be thinking about going home, getting with my wife, packing, preparing, and then going into that first thing in the morning tomorrow.
Okay, try and guess in the first week of your child's life, how many Yankees games are you going to watch?
I'm going to watch all of them.
How?
I'm going to watch them live on my big screen in my living room. It's non-negotiable.
Keith.
There's no reason. There's no reason for me not to.
What about NBA playoffs? You're going to squeeze in all the NBA playoffs. Your Nets take on my Sixers this weekend. Are you going to? I mean, first of all,
they play at 1 o'clock.
That is not a must-watch series. I'm sorry. I know you're a Nets fan, but I'll tell you right now, if you
it might be our last games. Could be our last 4 games, last 7 games, and I don't know. I don't miss the NBA playoffs too much, especially if my team is in it, which the Nets, in the last 10 years have been in it. I think 8 out of the last 10 years in Brooklyn. I'm gonna watch, and I think like my wife and my family, they know this about me, and I'm blessed that like I've always been like this since a kid, and now I have. Hey, I need to watch this for work. This is for work purposes. You're not going to work for 6 weeks. I know I can't miss games because when I return, I don't want them to talk about something that happened while I was out. So
fair enough.
I've got it set up, man, and I get it. I know it's going to be intense. I know it's going to be a lot.
Yep.
From the research I've done, these babies sleep for like an hour max, and then they're up again, and then it's like this never-ending cycle of like feeding and crying and changing, and
No, everything, it's an ecosystem. So if one part goes off, the whole thing goes off. You never think about burping until you have a baby. You're like, okay, so if he doesn't burp or she doesn't burp, what's the big deal? They don't burp, they don't sleep, and you're not watching the Yankees. That's how it works. So
they have to get that gas out, that air out,
or they won't sleep.
Or they can't fall asleep.
Right, and they have to eat the right amounts, and they have to go to the bathroom at the right times. It's a science project. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. And I do think you have the energy and the commitment to watch all these sports.
Yeah.
I totally respect it. But it is tricky. One little thing goes on, and all you really want is a healthy baby. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if the Nets lose in 4 games to the Sixers.
Yeah, no, the results of these games don't matter, but I do want to watch them live. What I'm planning on doing is going dark on social media and trying to not live tweet the games like I do.
Trying the key word.
Make it appear as if I'm being a dad and doing what I'm supposed to do.
Make it appear. I love it.
I also booked a night nurse, put some money to the side, and
best move you'll ever make. I did it too.
I talked to a lot of people, and they're like, "Hey, you're gonna need an extra hand, especially because my wife and I were first time parents. We live an hour away from our nearest family member. We're going at this alone, so now we have someone that's dealt with 30 babies in the last year coming to help us out."
It's so cool because you have no idea what you're doing. He or she is going to know everything. Basically, it's a 3-week tutor or however long you're going to have it.
3 weeks, yep.
Yeah, it's a godsend. That is so cool. All right, speaking of social media, we put out a poll. I am all about the Lakers for financial reasons and other reasons. I'm saying the Lakers getting out of the play-in are going to win at least a series and be a real threat in the West. We put up a poll at Maggie and Pearl. Will the Lakers advance? 67% went with the Grizzlies. Keith, what's up with that? 67%? I can't convince America.
They're the number 2 seed.
Yeah.
and no one believes in the 1 seed.
Yeah, but the Lakers have LeBron and Anthony Davis. The Grizzlies have Ja Morant.
You're falling into the TV marketing like I did as a kid. But the Lakers, LeBron, AD, they're the Lakers. None of that matters when they step on the floor. And these young guys from Memphis, like I said, have something to prove. They've come up short the last few years. They had the Ja Morant controversy. All of a sudden, Dylan Brooks is the number 1 villain in the NBA. Desmond Bane had his little back and forth with LeBron. Jaren Jackson Jr. might be the defensive player of the year. They have something to prove. They're looking to sweep the Lakers. They're not looking to make this a series. Ja Morant will star and has to star in this series.
Yeah, it's good. Actually, I love the Grizzlies, too. How can you not? They're a very entertaining team. I love watching Ja play. I know it's been a hard year. So I'm pulling for the Lakers because of my bet here. But I think from an entertainment standpoint, the whole West is entertaining. I think the East is seems a little more set. It seems like Milwaukee and Boston. The play-in game last night, Atlanta's kind of loaded with stars. They're really good young players there. They have guys. They should not be an 8 seed, but they take out Miami. The first time a number 7 seed is lost in the play-in. We have a caller, Mark in Miami, who's always telling us about the Heat. That was not good last night. Kyle Lowry was their only offense. 37 years old, Philly guy, so I always love him. But that's not really what you want to see out of Miami. I think it's going to be a very interesting playoffs. If anybody out there wants to support me with my Lakers, give me a call, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. All right, Keith, we're going to play a game that we play here. Do you believe it? Where we're going to play sound or we're going to have a statement, and you and I have to decipher this, whether the person in sports is telling the truth. All right, Stu Kovacs. Oh, no, we're not going to play that yet.
Yeah, we are. We're here.
Okay, we are going to play Do You Believe It right now. Stu is going to throw out the line, and you and I are going to break it down whether it is true. All right, where are we beginning?
Okay, we'll start with Angel Reese, who obviously had a great tournament for the LSU women's team, leading them to the national championship. Averaging 23 points, 15 rebounds a game. Now, Shaq recently was on the big podcast with Shaq, so his own podcast, and he said this about Angel Reese.
She's probably the greatest athlete ever to come out of LSU sports. You heard it here first. Yeah. Man and female.
I love the competitive. I love the competitive aspect. Male and female.
Male and female.
Best,
she's
yourself included.
Yes, because guess what? Boy. She delivered. She delivered that package. See, a lot of us got the package, and we still got the package in our truck. She delivered that package. So, it's a lot of names you could throw around, men and women, but she's probably the greatest athlete. Some people's going to exclude her to women athlete. I'm not doing that. She's the greatest athlete to ever come out of this because she got it done.
Now, there's been a lot of great athletes that come out of LSU, of course. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. You have Andrew Whitworth, Jamal Adams, Alex Bregman of the Astros, Tyrann Mathieu, Pete Maravich. A lot of great athletes, including Shaq himself, too. Do you believe it, that she is the greatest LSU athlete?
No, I don't believe it, and I don't believe that Shaq believes it either. I think that he is, one, celebrating Angel Reese, which is kind of cool, but B, I think he knows, and you can tell by his voice, he knows he is stirring the pot a little bit here. Because Angel Reese did win a title and was great this year, but Pete Maravich was an all-time, he's the greatest college basketball player of all time, arguably. Joe Burrow won the Heisman and the national title. I'm fine with if he said she's top 5. Number 1 is too much for me. Keith?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what Shaq was trying to do. I think he's been on TV a while. He knows you got to have a hot take, and this will bring people to listen to your whole podcast. That's the first time I played the audio. When I originally saw this on Twitter, I read it and scrolled right past it because I know what you're doing, Shaq, and I have no problem with it. You're building up a young black woman that had a bunch of people attacking her for honestly nothing. But to say that she's the best athlete to come out of LSU, she hasn't come out of LSU yet. She literally said
Good point.
she's staying for another year. We don't know what her pro career will turn into. You're coming off of LSU football championship, right, 3 years ago, and those guys have gone into the NFL. You mentioned Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, arguably the best receiver in the NFL, and a bunch of other guys that were on that team. Pat Queen with the Ravens. A bunch of those guys, one, they did deliver the championship, which, not for nothing, Shaq, winning the college football championship is way bigger than winning the women's national championship in basketball. Props to Angel Reese. Props to her $1.2 million valuation for NILs. But she's not even top 5 when it comes to the best athletes. I don't even know if she's top 10. I was waiting for you to say DJ LeMahieu from the Yankees. Like, I just understand that this is Shaq using his platform to build this young woman up, which is fine, but it is more than a hot take. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, we saw DJ LeMahieu on the street the other day. Maggie and I did.
Where? Around here?
Right around here.
Man, I would love for that to happen to me.
Yeah, he was pretty nice. Maggie goes, "Hey, DJ," and he goes, "Hey," and that was the whole conversation. But wait, Keith, can I share some stats of Pete Maravich at LSU? He averaged 43.8, 44.2, and 44.5 from 1967 through 1970. No three-point line. You double team a dude. I mean, how on earth can that guy score that many points in a college game?
I'm sure him and his representatives and some people are like, hey,
yeah,
you can't say that, Shaq.
Yeah.
What about me?
Joe Burrow had the greatest college football season.
Maybe the best quarterback season we've seen in recent history.
Well, I mean, I know it's getting easier to play quarterback in college because we're seeing huge.
I'll never
numbers.
say it's getting easy to play quarterback. I play quarterback in college. It is hard to play, even if your team is stacked. Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty, Joe Thorough. This guy was ice cold, and he delivered the goods. He transferred there and brought them a championship. They'll probably never win another, well, I won't say never, but they probably won't win another football championship in the SEC in the way college football has changed for a long time.
You know, I don't want to cause trouble here, but I'm going to. I think you might make a better argument that Caitlin Clark is the greatest athlete out of Iowa, but I have to, because I haven't actually sat and thought of who are the great athletes out of Iowa.
No, but yeah.
Because I don't think there are nearly as many.
That's a great counter.
Super big pros who come out of Iowa. I mean, I know all the tight ends, George Kittle and
offensive linemen.
You know, people in Iowa are going to kill me. They had Keegan Murray in the NBA draft a couple of years ago, but Iowa doesn't produce the pros like LSU does. So Caitlin Clark might have an advantage. But of course, that whole thing, we haven't had a chance to talk about it. I didn't mind. I thought the whole thing was overblown, but I thought it took away a little bit from how well both teams.
Did you watch the Final Four for women and the championship?
Yeah, of course.
I did too, and that's the thing. People didn't watch these games, but they helicoptered in to talk about a girl waving her hand across her face and pointing to her ring finger. It was overblown. These are 20 and 21-year-old college
kids. Yeah,
they're kids. These are literal little girls playing basketball. They didn't put hands on each other. It was competitive. And it was kind of like a return serve, right? It was in her head that Caitlin Clark did that against Louisville. Oh, when we beat them, I'm going to do this. It got blown out of proportion by Twitter, right? That's what Twitter always is. Twitter is like people helicoptering in off of video. They didn't really see it all. And people run to defend Caitlin Clark after she lost, and there's officials or not, there is no way Iowa was beating LSU. They were balling like an NBA team. Every shot was going in.
Yeah.
They scored over 100 points like an NBA team. You never see women's basketball scores in the triple digits. LSU was destined to win that. Caitlin Clark is the best player in basketball. That whole what to do was unfortunate because more people should have been talking about the game and what these two young women did to help publicize the game. Instead, the negativity always draws people in, and it wasn't really that much of anything to talk about.
Totally agree.
I tried to dodge it on WFA, and I'm like, do we really have to talk about this?
I did too, a little bit, but it was hard to dodge it completely because it crossed over. Everybody was talking about it. Sports fans, non-sports fans. I mean, honestly, a lamer celebration is a 38-year-old dad copying the young guys on the team by doing the ice cold celebration in LeBron James. But we'll get to that a little bit.
By the way, we have Dallas Clark and Bob Sanders both played football at Iowa.
I mean, there's got to be. I remember Chuck Long. I remember when he was a quarterback in the old days, came in second in the Heisman race. There's got to be more famous guys than those two guys.
You have Chad Greenway, Robert Gallery. It doesn't seem like it's
Robert Gallery, number 2 overall pick. Wow, so Caitlin Clark maybe is. Wow.
She might be.
She might be. All right.
That's a great counter. Like you should actually clip that and run with that. Like Caitlin Clark is the best instead of Angel Reese.
But Keith, you know how people are going to take that. If I say Caitlin Clark, are you kidding me? Actually, I should.
Racist.
All right.
So
what's the next? Do you believe it's 2?
So the next one is the Arizona Cardinals, and they started their off-season conditioning program yesterday. And Kyler Murray, despite tearing his ACL towards the end of the season, was present and actually posted some videos on social media of him working out. Now, new head coach Jonathan Gannon talked to reporters yesterday and was asked what he thought.
Obviously, I talked to Kyler a lot, and he's got competitive juice, so he wants to be doing everything that he can to get out there when he can to help the team win. So pleased where that's at. I think I told him the other day. As good as you feel, there's going to be a little bit of a dip. You got to make sure you don't overdo it too. So because that's a part to being smart when you rehab from any injury. You want to go. Sometimes you got to push the pause button a little bit. But excited where he's at and where he's going.
So do you believe it that Jonathan Gannon is excited about Kyler Murray's rehab?
No, there's no way. There's no way.
He just got there.
He just got there, and Kyler Murray, the rehab might be going well, but you have to be so nervous about a mobile quarterback coming off an injury like that. I don't see how the Cardinals, because I don't think you're going to have Kyler week 1. I do not see how they're going to win games this year. I think Jonathan Gannon has a former Eagles coordinator, by the way, has a lot to figure out, and I just don't believe him.
Well, I mean, he's got to say that, right? He hasn't coached the game yet. Like I said, he just got there. The most notable thing is that he was doing the pew pew fireworks sounds when he met Rondell Moore.
That was so
He was like, "You man, you're pew pew." Like all over. I'm like, all right, whatever. Just the camera caught that interaction. But with Kyler Murray, I saw the video of him squatting. Good. I'm glad you're making progress. But he's not going to be ready to help you as a first-year coach. You could be one and done. He's not going to be ready to help you, and you have bigger fish to fry. Like Arizona, they can't win at home.
No.
They're a mess. And, I mean, he's coming from your Philadelphia Eagles. There was a lot of talk about these offensive coordinators from the Eagles, these coordinators.
He's a defense, yeah.
Offense and defensive coordinator guys getting head coaching jobs. We'll see how they do.
Well, I like Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator, went to Indy, and he's legit. I saw a speech he gave the team the other day. I bought in. I think he has a better chance. And I think offensive minds, I'm hire an offensive guy. So I'm going to
hire an offensive coach.
Offensive guy. I could believe Jonathan Gannon just got torched in the Super Bowl and has teams lining up to give him a job. Didn't totally understand it. I would have gone offense.
It's just the way that the NFL goes. Oh, these guys got to the Super Bowl. We got to take them, and maybe they can be the next Sean McVay. It doesn't work like that. But, hey, he's saying the right things. Sure, Kyler, I don't know, Kyler's a guy that a year ago we were talking about him playing video games too much. Like, his career might be done. He might be picking up the baseball bat.
All right, lastly, we got one more, Stu. Hit us.
So Edwin Diaz, speaking of players with knee injuries, he tore his patella tendon last month in the World Baseball Classic. And he talked to reporters today for the first time and said, quote, "I might throw this season. As of right now, my knee is doing all right. The doctors are really happy, so we are in a good direction for that." And quote, "Do you believe Edwin Diaz returning at some point this season?"
Nope. I don't. I mean, I can tell you a few reasons why. with these rehabs, and these guys are assets. He signed a $102 million contract, which they are getting the money back for. It's protected. There's insurance on that. But, like, it's going to take so much for him to come back and join the team. We see that all the time with these teams. Like, oh, they might get this guy. Last year, they might get Ben Simmons back to join the Nets. 2 years ago, Spencer Dinwiddie's rehabbing to rejoin the Nets at the end. And I think it's really a fan thing. Fans keep this hope and optimism. On opening day, they had to show Edwin Diaz on the big screen just so they could do the they just love the like theatrics of the trumpet and Narco. Realistically, the plan is for him to be 100% healthy for spring training. You're not rushing this guy back for October. When you were bounced in the wild card round, there's no guarantee that you're playing that long in October.
Yeah, so as a Phillies fan, I can weigh in on this. I think the Edwin Diaz injury was a blessing in disguise because I followed Edwin Diaz throughout his career. You're telling me he was going to have the same kind of year this year? There's no guarantee. I find
they hated this guy.
They hated this guy. I find bullpen really hard to predict, and even the outcome of an injury in the bullpen really hard to predict as well. So, you know, as an NL East fan, I feel like it's the Braves division to lose, even with the Mets having 100%. All this talent. So I've already actually kind of given up on my Phillies. That's terrible to say.
No, it's the Braves. I think we all know that.
It's the Braves. And you know what strikes me about the Braves? It doesn't matter what happens to them. They always come back strong.
They have a good organization, top to bottom. They have good players. They locked them up. That division is tough. And for the Mets, I mean, that whole trade to bring Edwin Diaz here, he was booed. Fans didn't love him. Maybe Edwin Diaz is just talking the way he's talking right now because Jared Kelenic has homered the last 3 days in a row, and that's a prospect that was in the Mets system. And the Mets have a bunch of prospects that are homering and making noise in the minor leagues that they, should bring up. But I think right now it's like, oh, let me give the fans this hope and optimism that I'm not done. My rehab's going well. I could be back in October. The season could be over in October. And Jared Kelenic could be one of the better players on the Mariners roster. Yep, 3 straight games with a homer. I just wanted to double check that. Jared Kelenic homer today in Wrigley Field again.
I'm glad Maggie's not here for that. A super Mets fan. Any bad news for the Mets puts her in a tailspin. But Keith, of course, you're a Yankees fan. You're totally cool with bad news on the Mets, which I like. But coming up, we're going to change the subject. Again, Keith is about to become a dad. I'm going to tell him the one thing that everyone is afraid to tell you. That's coming up next, right here on Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time to answer our Ask the Pros question of the day, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Today's question comes from Carol in Pennsylvania. What's the one thing you wish you knew when you had kids, Perloff? Don't forget, you can submit a question by going to cbssportsradio.com/askthepros or tweeting it at CBS Sports Radio using the hashtag AskThePros. I would say the one thing that I wish people had told me more is you are going to make a ton of mistakes. Now, Keith, who is filling in for Maggie today, is going to become a father later this week. I got to tell you, I screwed up a million things with my kids, and they were just fine. And it reminded me when I grew up, it was so different back then. I'm older than you. Basically, seatbelts were optional, and people smoked everywhere when I was a young kid, and we all turned out fine. So you're going to hear all this stuff about how you have to be perfect as a parent. Ignore it. You're going to make mistakes. I don't know. Are you hearing some of that already, Keith?
Yeah, I've heard everything, and I think it's different for everyone, and you can't really take anyone's advice too much, but you can kind of collect and gather advice, and that's what I've been doing. I'm ready for it. I know there's no real script. There's no real playbook. You got to take it as it comes.
All right, let's talk some more football. Saquon Barkley. Now, Keith McPherson is here in WFAN in New York. So Saquon reportedly will not sign his franchise tag. He was tagged this offseason by the Giants. Will get $10.1 million to play next year, which is funny because Daniel Jones basically got $84 million for 2 years, the quarterback. Now, Saquon, if he does not sign the tag, cannot show up at the offseason program that begins Monday in New York. Keith, what is your read on the Saquon situation?
Saquon Barkley supposedly had a contract on the table during the season, around $12 million a year, an extension or I don't know, maybe a 3-year deal. I forget the specifics, but there was supposedly a contract extension deal out there for him before we got to this point. The franchise tag is around $10 million and it's for 1 year. He kind of defaulted into that. He bet on himself and had a great year. He wants to get paid. So I think here, him not signing that franchise tag, one, gives him some extra time to be with his wife, his child, his family, his mom, his dad, and enjoy the offseason. 2, it buys them more time to potentially negotiate a long-term deal. I think the Giants said that $12 million a year is off the table. They're probably trying to get that deal back on the table now.
So your team is Dallas Cowboys. They tagged Tony Pollard. As you look at the way this offseason is folded, no running backs have gotten paid. Saquon had a great year last year. You would have thought he would have gotten paid. I thought that the Cowboys oversigned even doing that tag with Tony Pollard. Coming off a broken leg, do you really have to pay him $10 million next year? There's no way there would have been that market.
I think they were afraid that, after the year he had, somebody might have, but I don't think in this NFL, they're not paying running backs.
They're just not paying.
Josh Jacobs was the leading rusher this year. He was a monster. He had a 300-yard game this year, won the game for him, and they franchise tagged him. And
that's because teams know that the running backs, they only have so many carries in their legs. And they're not. That's why you draft one, because you get that 4 or 5 years. I think it's a real kind of bummer. They should almost have a different salary cap structure for running backs, because teams are just taking advantage of them. They're replacing them in the draft, using them up, and they're not paying them long term, more than any other position in the league.
Yeah, I'm a Cowboys fan. So I remember I was literally sitting at Buffalo Wild Wings in Times Square when it was new. I wanted Jalen Ramsey. The Cowboys take Ezekiel Elliott 4 overall. Ezekiel Elliott goes to Cabo 4 seasons later before his initial deal is up, and he forces Jerry Jones, Zeke who? Remember the whole Jerry Jones, Zeke who? Pretending as if like he was going to call Zeke's bluff with Tony Pollard on the team, rookie Tony Pollard. He ends up paying Zeke $15 million a year for 6 years. That's $90 million to a running back. That's a ridiculous contract for a guy that honestly fell off the cliff. His production is not even close to what it was his first 3 or 4 years in the league. Jerry Jones, before they, announced that they were going to let Zeke go, he had $26 million committed to 2 running backs, one that's washed, one that's hurt. So you have $26 million tied up in a backfield that's not going to be effective for you. They bring in Ronald Jones, whatever. Where we're at in the NFL, they're not taking running backs high. We have a Bijan Robinson type coming into this NFL draft, and people are saying he could fall into the 20s. That's a guy that gets picked where Leonard Fournette is taken.
Absolutely.
Todd Gurley. I can't even think of some of these other backs that have gone early like that.
Christian McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey. Like, Bijan Robinson is a game breaker, that type. But right now, they're finding in the NFL, there's so many backs. There's so many of these guys that go undrafted or in later rounds and become the main guy. You don't have to use that draft capital on a running back, and you don't have to pay them top dollar either.
You can't get into that game, though, Keith, of who we should have drafted who went right behind us. Now, as an Eagles fan, I have a lot of pain watching Justin Jefferson score touchdowns.
Jalen Reagor?
Well, we took Jalen Reagor out of TCU.
It's tough.
So on a Sunday, I'll be watching the Eagles, and then I'll see Justin Jefferson is trending, or Jalen Reagor is trending on Twitter because Justin Jefferson just scored. I love that game. Like, who should we have taken? Listen, the Cowboys have been actually a surprisingly good drafting team. Don't you think? I mean, you could make that argument. They've been one of the top 10 drafting teams in the league.
They always draft well because they have to. They don't sign free agents. So if you're not signing free agents, their biggest free agent signing in the last few years, I think, was Brandon Carr. This year, they still didn't sign free agents. They traded for Stephen Gilmore and for Brandon Cooks. They have to draft well. They have to get CeeDee Lamb in the draft, Trayvon Diggs in the draft. They have to hit on these guys because they're not going out and getting the top free agents.
But I would say there was a point where Zeke was obviously very effective. There was that year when Dak first got there.
The first 3-4 years, he was one of the top lead. He did lead the league in rushing. He was the whole team. Like, he made Dak better.
Yeah.
You wanted to feed Zeke. Now he's slow. He ate too much. It's like you don't want him with the ball. He does not have that burst that he used to have.
You saw it in the San Francisco game. He could turn any 7-yard gain into a 3-yard gain. Amazing ability to do that. By last year's draft, they drafted Tyler Smith, the left tackle out of Tulsa. Very good. And then in the second round, they got the kid Sam Williams out of Mississippi. He looked like a first-round talent to me. They've had a lot of hits. Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs. So people kind of rip Jerry Jones. But you're right. The one thing they do is draft. And that's funny because everyone thinks Jerry's a big spender. That's not his thing, really, is it? He's actually more long-term than people paint him out to be.
Yeah, and I think this year they put somebody else in the front office because they're moving a little differently. But, Jerry Jones, he drafts guys, and they sometimes have to pull him back to not draft the Johnny Manziel. And They try and finesse and finagle these contracts. That's how they lost Randy Gregory, because on the back end, they went through the contract and they're like, hey, this isn't the money that we thought we were getting.
Randy Gregory did nothing, by the way. So that turned out to be okay.
Worked out just fine.
So what do you expect next year from the Giants? I think Saquon will be back. I think you're right. He's buying time. Daniel Jones is in the fold. They made the playoffs last year, but they had this easy schedule, the easiest schedule in the NFL, actually, based on strength of schedule coming into the season. I think it's going to be tough for Brian Daboll in his second year. I think the NFC East is good. I think the Cowboys are going to be good. The Eagles are still going to be good. I'm not sure the Giants make it back to the postseason.
I don't think they're sneaking up on anyone this year. And a lot of their games last year, they stole late. They're not going to be able to do that. They have to take a step forward. And I think they've made some moves here to get some more weapons. They obviously paid Daniel Jones. They better make sure everything's good with Saquon, because they need that guy too. Yeah. But, that's the thing. They surprised a lot of people in year one. They stole a lot of games in year one, and that's not going to be the case this year.
And Daniel Jones ran the ball a lot.
He's going to have to run it again.
But can he stay healthy?
Especially if Saquon's not there.
Yeah. But can he stay healthy? Because he's always had injuries, and then he just took off all the time. They got blown out by the Eagles in the playoffs. We'll see. All right, coming up next. First time, I believe, ever, there have been 4 California teams to make the NBA playoffs. We're going to debate which one goes the furthest. It's actually pretty interesting. But first, Dexter Henry here with a sports update.
CBS Sports Flash.
Thank you, guys. Tonight, the Rays will look to continue their historic hot streak to begin the season. Winners of 11 games in a row. With the win over Boston tonight, they will look to become the 3rd MLB team to start 12-0 since 1901. On the diamond right now, top of the 9th, the Cards on top of the Rockies 6-4. Top 7, Diamondbacks on top of the Brewers 5-1. Bottom of the top 6, Phillies 2-1 lead over the Marlins. And at the end of 5, the Angels and Nationals are tied at 2. Earlier today, the Mariners, they sunk the Cubs 5-2. The Yankees grounded the Guardians 4-3. The Astros blanked the Pirates 7-0. Twins toppled the White Sox 3-1. The Mets, they dropped the Padres 5-2. Pete Alonso hit his major league leading 6th home run. Rangers shortstop Corey Seager will miss at least 4 weeks with a hamstring strain. The Cubs, they have signed outfield Ian Happ to a 3-year, $61 million extension. The NBA play-in tournament continues tonight. Bulls versus Raptors, followed by Thunder versus Pelicans. Giants running back Saquon Barkley will not be with the team when New York's offseason program begins on Monday. According to multiple outlets, the running back will skip the workout because he doesn't want to sign his franchise tag tender. I'm Dexter Henry.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
All right, we're back on Maggie and Perloff. Keith, we got 4 California teams in the NBA playoffs.
And no Texas teams.
No Texas teams.
For the first time.
So you got
in a long time, I think.
The Clippers are taking on Phoenix, Game 1 Sunday. The Lakers taking on Memphis, Game 1 Sunday. And then, I think it's going to be a great series. Golden State, Sacramento, Saturday night. Which California team goes the furthest in this playoffs? Who do you have the most faith in? Warriors, Kings, Clippers, or Lakers?
The Kings, if they survive the Warriors series, or the Warriors, if they survive the Kings in that series.
So you like the 2 northern teams a lot more than you like the Southern California teams.
Yeah, I do, and I'm intrigued by that matchup. It's the guys that are there every year that have all the experience versus the guys that are never there and they're having their first experience. I think it's going to be home games for both. For the Warriors in both places. I know Sacramento has a strong fan base, but the Warriors fans are here in New York as well. We see them everywhere. That's going to be a good series. I think the Kings can beat them, but there's just something about the Warriors this time of the year. Like, they know how to do this playoff run. Like, Draymond Green called it the Warriors Invitational. Like, it's their tournament that they host every year.
But I thought you said the NBA sort of pushes certain teams ahead, so that means that we're going to have a Golden State, Los Angeles Lakers second round.
They would love that. LeBron versus Steph. LeBron and Steph will never be on the same team. Can we get that? We can never get KD versus LeBron. Can we get LeBron versus Steph in the playoffs? The NBA would love that.
Oh, that'd be great. All right, speaking of LeBron, that brings us to our shot of the day.
He shoots!
The shot of the day is brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos is brought to you by those who drink it. I know Maggie Gray is down south of the border enjoying many a Casamigos margarita. Yeah, she's doing great, by the way. We've texted every day. She texted me last night saying, have you watched Succession yet on HBO? Keith, I don't know if you're into that show, but it's in the news a lot.
Everybody's talking about it. It even has made its way into like the Yankees broadcast and something else. I'm like, everybody's talking about this.
Yeah, you're not going to. You're going to have.
I don't have the time to watch.
You're going to have a kid later this week. You picked the wrong time to catch up on any shows. No binge watching. But speaking of, there's another dad who's not. He's not a new dad, but in my opinion, he's not acting like a dad. He's trying to celebrate like the young guys, and that's LeBron James. I'm a dad, and when I try to do the celebrations that the young guys do on the court, it looks super lame. And I'm sorry, LeBron doing the ice water in his veins right after Schroeder did it kind of looked like a dad trying to celebrate like a young guy. I think LeBron, I follow LeBron on Twitter very closely. He's basically like me. He's a dad who's on Twitter all the time. It just struck me as kind of lame.
It was lame. And we laughed about it, and I said, it's LeBron. LeBron needs credit for everything. And LeBron is like, wait, he's doing it? I'm going to do it because I made the pass. I made the assist. So I got ice in my veins for making the play.
But can't LeBron come up with something original?
All LeBron is doing now is this, the imaginary floating crown. I'm the king. I'm the king of the NBA, king of the universe. Long live the Watch King. Crown me, crown me. Well, kings don't crown themselves, but LeBron is always putting on the imaginary crown now.
I was going to tell you, Keith, that imaginary crown motion doesn't really work on the radio, so you explained it, thankfully.
I thought about it as I'm like showing you. Anyone listening is like, dead air.
By the way, Keith, I hit a jump shot on a guy the other day in my pickup run and did the "you can't see me" in his face. He just burst out laughing.
It's not serious at all. No, when you actually use it on someone, it's funny.
It's the dorkiest celebration in the history of the world.
John Cena. I feel like John Cena didn't get enough pub off that. That's his "you can't see me."
I'm so old. Maggie killed me for this. I did not know that was a John Cena wrestling thing because my wrestlers are a different generation.
That was like his main thing. "You can't see me." There were memes and gifs.
Yeah. Now it's Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese's thing.
Yeah, and these young kids, like John Cena's washed. He actually lost, I think, at, WrestleMania that same weekend. And his career in the WWE is over. So,
but he's a big movie star.
I mean, he's John Cena, and that is his thing. The only it's his thing. It's not Angel Reese. It's not Caitlin Clark. He invented the "you can't see me."
I'm playing this Saturday, and I'm going to do the ice water in the veins celebration.
Yeah, but you can only do it. It has to be for like a clutch, game winner, or game extender, or like the go ahead. Like you can't just do it in the flow of a regular game that puts you up one possession.
Well, I'll tell you how I celebrate. I do the hit the game-winning three, which is rare these days. Hit the game-winning three, and then walk off the court like, oh yeah, I did that. No big deal. Who's next? I don't celebrate at all. I turn around, and if I'm really feeling it, I let the ball go, then turn around and walk towards the bench as if it's going to go in. And I've done that before, Keith. And
no, don't do the look away.
The shot misses by 3 feet, and the other team gets a fast break because I'm walking off.
That's the swaggy P. You're going to see a lot of this celebration. Mikal Bridges' 3-point celebration. You're going to see a lot of that coming up starting on Saturday.
Well, we'll see. All right. We have some callers. Our buddy Nick in Texas is a great father. We met his kids at the Final Four. And I believe he has some advice for you, Keith.
Okay.
Hey, guys. What's going on? Yes, from one father to another. I want to congratulate you, Keith, on becoming a new father. Quick story, since you already got your fatherhood all planned out for tomorrow when you're going to be there. When I had my Nick Jr., which Perloff met last week or a week ago or so, my friend from Florida and I were invited to a wedding in Phoenix. So he drove from Florida, picked me up in Houston. We drove up to Phoenix, went to the wedding, and then the next day I was flying back to I was going to fly back to Houston. Well, I had missed my flight the next morning, so I was like the mom from Home Alone trying to do anything I could to get on any flight to get back home, knowing that my wife was pregnant at the time. And then I had to fly into Dallas, get a rental car, drive from the rental car back to Austin to get my car where I met my friend from Florida, and then drive down to Houston. Made it to the hospital in time, probably about within 3 hours to see my son born. That was my quick story.
Oh,
secondly,
it's not that quick, Nick, actually, to be honest with you, but okay.
It was quick enough.
You talk so many things that you had me like all these topics I'm trying to get in quickly. Hey, John Cena, he got that from Tony Yayo. He even said that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I saw that on Twitter. Tony Yayo was the first one to do that with the G Unit in that video. But John Cena made it the most popular. Tony Yayo doesn't even claim it.
Correct. B, Succession. Logan needed you to sell the business, but I'm not going to give away the
No, Nick, stop.
Spoiler.
No, don't say anything.
I know. I'm not spoiling it. I'm not going to spoil it. C, Lakers are going to win in the playoffs. I believe they're going to win the first round. And so I think that's going to be a great series. And lastly, Iowa has some great athletes. Reggie Roby. You had
Reggie Roby, a punter?
Yes, a punter. You had Don Nelson.
John Nelson, the guard?
Caitlin Clark's already way bigger than both of them combined.
No, John Hanna's the guard. Who's John Nelson?
Don Nelson.
Oh, Don Nelson. Yeah, okay. I Googled these. Luke Garza. Come on. It's Caitlin Clark.
I know. And then Dan Gable. He went to my high school. So
Dan Gable's actually, that's a good one. That's a good one. The wrestler. Okay. All right. That's
And
good.
lastly, shout out to the Grainers, the Purple Drinkers, the Weedos, and Keith's mom. Guys, have a great week.
All right.
But not my actual mom.
I was about to say.
I remember from the first time I was on with Maggie. Maggie was filling me in, and I'm like, okay, I don't need to even know. It's too deep for me to even know.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Phil in PA, who is willing to take me up on my Lakers Grizzly bet. Now, I've lost some bets to Phil. Phil, what do you think in this round?
Well, first off, I want to say to Keith, I will be sending us some prayers for, your wife and your son tomorrow. Make sure everything, goes smoothly, and congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hopefully, everything's great.
I hope so.
And all right. I also waited for the entire show to have someone take up the bet on you, Perloff, but I guess since no one will step up, I guess I will. But considering you still owe me from our first bet, I'm not sure what the stakes should be.
Wait, I still owe you. Oh, I have to get a Randall Cunningham jersey signed for Phil, who lent me his Randall Cunningham jersey, and we just have not run into Randall Cunningham.
We just haven't seen him. Or where is he? Is he staying in Philly?
No, he's in Vegas. Do you happen to know? Have you seen him?
No, I haven't physically seen him on TV. That's not physical. I haven't physically seen him. Haven't even seen him on TV or social media. I have no idea where he is.
Okay.
Wait, didn't he do that? Jalen Hurts, Michael Vick. Was he in that group? Donovan McNabb and Randall. No, they talked about like black quarterbacks from Philly,
Did they
but I don't
do
think
that? Okay,
they did. But I don't think Cunningham showed up. They referenced him, but it was McNabb, Vick, and Jalen Hurts, I think.
Okay, Phil, there's two things going on in Vegas. I think there's an F1 event in the fall, which I'm trying to get to. Have you been to one of those or heard about one of those? It's the Formula One.
I know it's big.
The one in Vegas is apparently supposed to be one of the bigger events to come to Vegas. Huge party. And, of course, the Super Bowl. And, by the way, maybe a baseball team. We'll get to that for a second. But, Phil, what's your bet?
Well, I kind of think that the Grizzlies will do it. I just think, the Lakers are a little too incomplete. But I have a question for you, Perloff. Do you have any tattoos?
I do not, and I can't do that.
Why not? Are you chicken?
Oh, wow. No, I just think I passed my window. I passed. You have tattoos?
Zero tattoos, never getting one.
Yeah,
you wouldn't pass out. My wife thought I would pass out.
No, I passed my window. I'm not going to pass out.
And I didn't even shed a tear.
How many do you have, Phil?
I have 2 on my arm and the full-size eagle wings on my back.
Okay, yeah. I mean, most of my friends have tattoos. I just feel like it's too late in life. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry. But why would you want me to get tattooed?
I got mine when I was 35, so you don't have to be, young to, take it.
Why would you have wanted me to get tattooed if the Lakers lost to the Grizzlies?
I don't know. I would have come up with that later. It wouldn't be horrible,
Desmond Bane's
but
face or something?
willingness to have one.
The Grizzly logo.
Okay, all right. Well,
Elvis Presley tattooed on your leg.
Yeah, Phil, we have all week.
Finalize it today. We have a couple of days.
We have all week.
Workshop this.
Call on Friday, and we will nail something. I can't do a tattoo, so bring it down a level, and I'm in. Okay.
I will think about it. Have a good one.
Thanks, buddy. So you no tattoos.
No tattoos. Not gonna get one. The pain that's pain that I don't need to know to put anything on my body. And I give credit to my mom. My mom, when I was young, thought I'd be a model. I did model for BMG Modeling in New York a couple years back. Then we fell in the pandemic, and I stopped going to castings.
Yeah, I mean, pandemic knocked out my modeling career as well.
But when you are trying to get into like modeling or commercial, even your daughter acting, right? if she's got a tattoo on her neck, they're not going to cast her for certain roles. So I just always looked at it as like, I don't want to count against myself. I'm already black. They're already discriminating against me. I got enough prejudice to deal with. If I got a sleeve, I've got no shot out here.
Oh, well, listen. You know, we're both incredibly good-looking men. We will always find a place. No, I'm just kidding. Dude, thank you so much for coming in the past 2 days. I know it's a huge weekend. Honestly, I think I speak for everyone here. We are so excited for you. I don't know if you're getting that in the hallways, but...
No, I am.
Oh,
I think everybody else is different than I am. Everybody else is more like excited or nervous or anticipating. Even shout out to everyone in the chat. A great chat.
Yeah.
Has been going the whole time. And, wishing me well and, the callers. And I thank you for the opportunity. I was so excited last week because it's nerve-wracking doing the night show at WFAN, thinking that you're going to be on at night and get that call. And when they said I could sit in with you, I've already been on with Maggie. It was awesome today and yesterday getting the chance to host with you.
Yeah, you're not going to think that when they make fun of you when the Sixers beat the Nets in a couple days.
Yeah, I mean, let us win one game. I just don't want to get swept, and I'm good.
Thanks to Stu Kovacs, Emmanuel Barberi. I will see you tomorrow with Zach Gelb sitting in the co-host chair.
Big Zach back.
See you tomorrow.
You're in a 5-minute break.